Chapter 443. Jingyu. Xiao Jingran's face was livid as he glared at Jingyu. I'm not deaf, I can hear you. You don't have to shout so loudly. Jingyu raised her hand and threw the teacup that Xiao Jingran had drunk from aside. She took a clean cup and poured herself a cup of hot tea. She held it and drank it. She blinked at Xiao Jingran and said, "Why haven't you left yet? You're actually chasing this king away?" Xiao Jingran froze for a moment before he gritted his teeth and looked at Jingyu. Jingyu was silent for a moment before she lowered her eyes and said, "It looks like the emperor will have to find a doctor to treat your ears. You can't even understand what you're saying." Jingyu. Xiao Jingran took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He almost wanted to rush up and strangle this damned woman to death. Everyone who saw him would be respectful, but when it came to Jingyu, he would be angered to death by her with just a few words. "I know that my name is Jingyu. You don't have to keep reminding me." Jingyu seemed to helplessly lower her head and looked at Xiao Chen with a sincere expression as she blinked her eyes. "You." Xiao Jingran's face turned red. He flung his sleeve and said, "This king just wants to tell you that this king wants to marry you to be this king's princess consort." PFFF. Jingyu had just taken a sip of tea when she suddenly heard Xiao Jingran say this. She immediately spat out the tea in her mouth. She looked up in astonishment at the arrogant Xiao Jingran who was standing not too far away. She looked as if this king was giving her face by marrying her. "Xiao Jingran, did you take the wrong medicine today?" Jingyu wiped the water from the corner of her mouth and glared at Xiao Jingran as she spoke. "Don't you want to marry this king?" Xiao Jingran looked at Jingyu with great confidence, as if he was waiting for Jingyu to be grateful. "I-oh." Jingyu quickly stood up and bowed 90 degrees to Xiao Jingran. "I really want to thank your whole family. If you want to be crazy, go somewhere else. If your brain isn't good, then go and have your brain checked. Don't come here to harm me. I'm afraid that with my temper, I'll chop you to death anytime." Xiao Jingran originally had an "I knew it" look on his face, but when he heard what Jingyu said, his face immediately turned as black as charcoal and his hands slowly clenched into fists. After hearing everything, Xiao Jingran's face turned red and his heavy breathing made Jingyu feel terrified. Would this guy suddenly explode? "Jingyu, how dare you insult this king?" Xiao Jingran angrily glared at Jingyu. Jingyu covered her face and wanted to cry. "Can you not repeat it with such an expression every time I'm done? It's so boring. It's your honor that this king likes you. How dare you not know what's good for you?" Xiao Jingran angrily glared at Jingyu. "Can you please use your brain to think?" Jingyu helplessly shrugged and said, "Is it better to marry you or the 9th emperor's? Firstly, the 9th emperor's family background is clean and he doesn't have a single concubine in his residence. There's no fighting in the harem, so which woman would be willing to serve the same husband with another woman? Secondly, you have to call the 9th emperor's imperial uncle. If you become the 9th imperial concubine imperial aunt, then wouldn't you have to call her imperial aunt? Her seniority would be higher. Even an idiot would know how to choose, okay?" Jingyu carefully explained. "Furthermore, I'm now the 9th imperial concubine that the 9th emperors have appointed. The imperial edict clearly states that if you want me to marry you, you have to nullify the edict. I'm still a woman waiting to be married, right?" Chapter 444. You're openly stealing the imperial uncle's wife. What are you doing? Disrespecting your elders? Rebelling against your superiors? Disregarding your relationship with them? Jingyu threw out a long string of words that completely stunned Xiao Jingran. You want to go against the 9 emperors with that brain of yours? You're really not good enough. Jingyu was speechless as she ridiculed him. You. Xiao Jingran suppressed his anger and glared at Jingyu, but he couldn't say a single word. Jingyu's words were completely true and Xiao Jingran naturally knew that. His heart trembled slightly before he suddenly calmed down and stared fixedly at Jingyu. Jingyu also blinked and stared at Xiao Jingran. Xiao Jingran furrowed his brows and said, "If I dismiss all the concubines in the harem and only leave you as my wife, will you be willing to marry me?" Jingyu widened her eyes in shock. She looked at Xiao Jingran's serious expression and slowly furrowed her brows. She stared at Xiao Jingran and said, "No, not in the past, not now, and not in the future. Xiao Jingran, no matter what you do, I will never marry you." "Why?" Xiao Jingran's breathing suddenly stopped as he stared fixedly at Jingyu and asked. "There's no why." Jingyu shrugged and tilted her head to look at Xiao Jingran as she said, "I don't like you. From the beginning, we've been enemies and we will be enemies in the future. The person I love is Xiao Qin. You should give up on this idea." Xiao Jingran's expression was ugly and his hands were tightly clenched. He suddenly felt incomparably jealous of Xiao Qin, but he also felt helpless. Jingyu was the first and only person to reject him. Xiao Jingran found it hard to accept at this moment. "Jingyu, you will regret this." Xiao Jingran threw this sentence down and left. Jingyu rolled her eyes speechlessly. She was dismissive of Xiao Jingran's words. Time passed quietly. In the blink of an eye, it was the new year. Jingyu had been out of the forest for 2 years. She was doing very well in the imperial city and was very famous. Jingyu was already 16 years old. It was the time for her to become an adult. When a woman was 15 years old, she would become an adult, and when a man was 16 years old, there would be a ceremony. Jingyu's coming-of-age ceremony would be held on the 15th of March. A month after the coming-of-age ceremony, it would be Jingyu's wedding day to the 9th royal uncle. All the affairs of the restaurant were handed over to Shen Yuqing and the others to take care of. Jingyu didn't manage it anymore. She only left behind a sentence. If there were enough funds and manpower, they would open the restaurant out of the imperial city and to the north and south of the river. This was also the first time Shen Yuqing and the others knew about Jingyu's ambition. They were not afraid and instead felt excited. Since it was the boss who said it, then they must do it well. In the future, the restaurant would definitely be opened all over the country. Before the new year, Jingyu went out with her brother to buy New Year's goods and prepared to have a good New Year. Jingyu was busy with the affairs of the imperial city and could not leave, so the preparations for the new year fell on Jing Lang's shoulders. Jingyu was bored in the imperial city and went out with Jing Lang. "Wow, this lantern is so beautiful, and this candlestick." The market was full of dazzling items and Jingyu jumped up and down happily. "Where?" Jing Lang helplessly held his forehead and said, "We are looking for things to use for the new year, not interesting things." "But this candlestick is really beautiful." Jingyu hugged the candlestick and blinked her eyes at Jing Lang. Jing Lang silently lowered his head and looked at the candlestick in Jingyu's arms. It was very innovative, but to put this candlestick in front of the ancestral tablets was really... Chapter 445. Let's go buy something to eat. Jing Lang grinned as he took the candlestick from Jingyu's hands and put it down. He pulled Jingyu along and hurriedly left. Jingyu's eyes lit up when she heard about food and she excitedly followed Jing Lang into the crowd. The servant girls and guards behind them hurriedly followed. After a round of shopping, everyone's hands were filled with gifts. Jingyu also experienced what it meant to squander money like dirt. Jingyu and Jing Lang chatted and laughed as they walked forward. Jing Yan and Jing Hong followed behind with their heads bowed. Jing Yan lowered her head and looked at the meager amount of money in her hand. Her eyes were filled with sorrow, anger, and resentment. She slowly tightened her grip on the money in her hand and smiled as she turned to Jing Hong. "Little brother, what do you want? Let's go buy it." "Second sister, little brother doesn't need to buy anything. Let's buy some new clothes for you and mother." Jing Hong slowly shook his head. His slightly immature face had the expression of a little adult. He clearly understood his situation and was very obediently making plans for his sister and mother. Hong has grown up. Jing Yan's heart trembled as she looked at Jing Hong, who was already taller than her. She raised her hand to straighten out his clothes and smiled. "We both need to buy new clothes. Let's go." Once upon a time, she was the beloved daughter of the Prime Minister. What did she not have? Now, she was embarrassed because of 1 or 2 new clothes. Jing Yan lowered her head and walked forward. She saw Jingyu chatting and laughing with Jing Lang in the crowd. It was an eyesore to her. Jingyu, it's all your fault. Jing Yu and Jing Lang bought everything they needed and then walked out with satisfaction to where the carriage was. However, the carriage that was originally in the alleyway had been moved by someone into the alleyway. Jing Yu and Jing Lang frowned helplessly and could only walk into the alleyway. As expected, they saw the carriage around the corner. Why was he moved here? The coachman even fell asleep. Jing Lang looked at the coachman who was sleeping on his arm and his eyebrows twitched. He strode over and said, "Wake up. What time is it now?" As Jing Lang spoke, he raised his hand and pushed the coachman. Unexpectedly, the coachman, who had been sleeping on his stomach, fell to the ground. His eyes were wide open, and there was a trace of blood on his neck. Everyone screamed in shock, and their eyes were wide open. Jing Lang's entire body trembled, and his expression suddenly changed. He suddenly turned around and shouted, Be careful." A cold, murderous intent pierced towards Jing Yu's back. Jing Yu's face suddenly turned cold. She threw out the thing in her hand, and her petite figure twisted and dodged. The two guards beside her pulled out their swords and sabers. 5 or 6 men in black appeared in the alleyway. On top of the roof tiles, shadows quietly descended. In an instant, they surrounded Jing Yu and Jing Lang. "Who are you?" Jing Lang raised his hand to protect Jing Yu behind him. His expression was cold as he looked at the dozens of murderous men in black. His eyes were full of seriousness. "The people who want your life." As soon as the words fell, the dozens of men in black stabbed their swords towards Jing Lang and Jing Yu. Their moves were ruthless and merciless. It was as if they wanted to take the lives of Jing Yu and Jing Lang. As a military general, Jing Lang's martial arts were naturally extraordinary. However, these men in black seemed to be well-trained assassins. The guards accompanying them were killed in less than 3 moves. Jing Yu pulled out the dagger at her waist and no longer held back. She rushed out of Jing Lang's encirclement and directly faced the men in black. Chapter 446. Jing Lang's heart trembled. He was originally anxious and uneasy, but when he saw Jing Yu handling the situation with such ease, he relaxed and concentrated on dealing with these black-robed men. Jing Yu originally thought that there were only these few black-robed men, but to her surprise, there was an endless stream of black-robed men. She had only killed 2 of them, but another 3 appeared from the hidden passage. It didn't take long for the alley to be blocked. Jing Lang was finding it increasingly difficult to deal with the black-robed men. His arm was injured again, and Jing Yu, who was handling the situation with ease at the beginning, could no longer hold her own. The streets outside were filled with clamor, but the alley inside was filled with a murderous aura. Finally, after a while, no more black-robed men appeared. Jing Yu and Jing Lang leaned against each other and panted slightly. These were all assassins. 1 or 2 of them could be dealt with easily, but with so many of them coming one after another, how could the 2 of them handle it? These black-robed men didn't give Jing Yu and Jing Lang any time to catch their breath. The long swords in their hands pierced towards them mercilessly. Jing Yu's figure paused, and in a moment of carelessness, she saw the cold long sword slashing towards her delicate neck. Ding! Jing Yu felt a sharp pain on her neck, and then a round white pearl fell to the ground. Jing Yu turned and squatted on the ground, looking at the cut rope and the white pearl that rolled to the side. Jing Yu slowly raised her head. Jing Lang's shoulder was stabbed, and when he saw Jing Yu's throat almost being slit, his heart almost stopped. His eyes were bloodshot, and his veins were bulging, as if he wanted to swallow all these people into his stomach. "Very good. None of you can leave." Jing Yu wiped her neck. The bloodstains on her hand made Jing Yu's chest surge with tyranny. She raised her hand and held the dagger horizontally in front of her. She looked at the black-robed men with disdain, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. At the corner of the alley, a petite figure squatted on the ground, carefully watching the scene in front of her. The face that was exposed was none other than Jing Yu's, Jing Yan's, face. Such a shocking scene, but there was no fear in Jing Yan's eyes. "Kill her. Kill her quickly." Jing Yan's face was full of excitement. She clenched her fists tightly as she looked at Jing Yu, who was squatting on the ground, and Jing Lang, who was covered in blood. Her eyes were full of joy. Just the thought of Jing was about to die, and her whole body couldn't help but tremble. Jing Yan's heart was full of joy. She looked at Jing Yu, who was in such a sorry state, and her heart was full of anger and disgust. You're going to die in a while. Laugh, laugh, laugh a little longer. However, just as this thought formed in Jing Yan's mind, she saw Jing Yu slowly stand up. Her lowered head made it impossible for others to see her expression. Jing Yan's heart skipped a beat. She looked over and saw Jing Yu's lips move slightly, as if she was saying something very softly. Then, she suddenly raised her head. Ah! Jing Yan couldn't control herself and cried out. Jing Yu suddenly looked over. That pair of eyes, one gold and one green, stared at Jing Yan so clearly. Jing Yan hurriedly dodged and hid. She ran a long distance away as if she had gone crazy. Her heart almost stopped beating at that moment. Jing Yan's face was pale as she leaned against the wall and fell to the ground. Her mind was blank. The pair of strange eyes in front of her seemed to still be staring at Jing Yu. It was filled with a beastly aura as if it would tear her apart in the next second. It was so fierce. Chapter 447. Strange, strange pupils. Jing Yan's body trembled as she hugged her arms in disbelief. Jing Yu has abnormal pupils. Monster, monster. Jing Yan clutched her arms tightly and closed her eyes. She couldn't get rid of that pair of eyes no matter how hard she tried. Her violently beating heart was like a drum. It was so shocking. After a long time or just a short while, Jing Yan finally calmed down and sat quietly against the wall. Jing Hong looked everywhere for Jing Yan but couldn't find her. After circling around for a long time, he finally saw Jing Yan. When he saw Jing Yan sitting on the ground, he hurriedly ran over. Second sister, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Jing Hong hurriedly walked over and held Jing Yan's shoulder. Ah! Jing Yan trembled and raised her head in horror. When she saw Jing Hong, the nervousness and fear in her heart slowly relaxed. Second sister, what's wrong? What happened? Jing Hong was shocked by Jing Yan's reaction. His eyes were filled with anxiety as he asked. I'm fine. Jing Yan stood up with Jing Hong's help. Her face was still a little pale. Jing Yan pursed her lips and said to Jing Hong, help me back. You must not tell anyone that we left the manor today. Do you understand? Jing Hong was slightly stunned. Although they didn't have anyone protecting them in the Jing manor, they were still surnamed Jing. Why couldn't they talk about leaving the manor? Listen to second sister. You must not tell anyone. Jing Yan grabbed Jing Hong's hand tightly and said, if you tell anyone, it might take second sister's life. Yes, I will remember. Jing Hong was shocked. Looking at Jing Yan's expression, he knew that this was a big matter. However, Jing Yan didn't want to tell Jing Hong, so he didn't dare to ask. Instead, he helped Jing Yan back to the manor as quickly as possible. While Jing Yan was gone, Jing Yu was still there. She saw a figure in that instant, but she didn't see who it was. How could Jing Yu confirm who it was? The group of black-clothed men were shocked by Jing Yu's sudden change. They all stared at Jing Yu's abnormal pupils with fear in their eyes. Jing Lang's heart jumped violently. A thought rose in his mind. He couldn't let anyone escape today. Demon. A black-clothed man pointed at Jing Yu and said with some fear. Ha! Jing Yu laughed coldly. She suddenly stepped forward. The force of her attack was mixed with the conviction to kill. It was violent and cold. Compared to the Jing Yu just now, Jing Yu's speed and strength were comparable to a wild beast. Her moves were so ruthless that the group of black-clothed men fought with all their might but were unable to resist. When they saw Jing Yu casually grab a black-clothed man's sword and break it in front of everyone, everyone was terrified and seemed to want to retreat. Do you still want to leave now? The corner of Jing Yu's mouth curled up indifferently. Her cold eyes flashed with a dazzling light. All the black-clothed men shuddered. Jing Lang went around to kill the black-clothed men who wanted to escape. Jing Yu mercilessly killed them all. The thick smell of blood filled the entire alley. Jing Yu coldly broke the neck of the last black-clothed man. She slowly stood up and looked at the corpses in the alley. Chapter 448. The smell of blood filled Jingyu's nostrils and an indescribable pleasure filled Jingyu's brain. Looking at the situation she had created, Jingyu felt an incomparable sense of pride and bloodlust. Jingyu hated killing people. She hated blood, but at this moment, the bloodthirsty desire to kill and the indescribable pleasure in her heart dominated Jingyu's nerves. This feeling was very unfamiliar. The blood in her body was boiling, making Jingyu somewhat anxious. Not enough. Jingyu looked at the corpses and slowly spat out these two words. But when these two words fell, Jingyu's body froze. Not enough? What was not enough? Jingyu closed her eyes in pain. The blood in her body paused for a moment. When Jinglang saw Jingyu's strange state, he hurriedly ran over. He looked anxiously at Jingyu and asked, "What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" Jingyu suddenly opened her eyes. Without any reaction from Jinglang, Jingyu suddenly raised her hand and strangled Jinglang's neck. Jinglang's expression suddenly changed. His neck was gripped by Jingyu's claw-like hand. He couldn't move at all and his face instantly turned red. Jinglang opened his mouth with difficulty, wanting to wake Jingyu up. Jingyu's eyes changed rapidly. Finally, she let go. Jingyu staggered. Pooh! She spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn thing! Jingyu knelt on the ground. Her face was pale. Jinglang was released and fell to the ground. He gulped in mouthfuls of fresh air and coughed violently. If it had been a few days later, Jingyu would have strangled Jinglang to death. Jinglang looked at Jingyu with a face full of fear. It wants to control me. Jingyu pointed at her eyes and said, "This damn thing can actually control my will. Are you okay? How could this be?" Jinglang was obviously shocked. Seeing Jingyu's eyes slowly turn black, he let out a sigh of relief. Looking at Jingyu's strange eyes, he felt very uneasy. Jingyu walked to the side and picked up the white pearl. Looking at the cut rope, she sighed silently. "Let's go first. Who sent these people?" Jingyu tightly pursed her lips. "I don't know." Jinglang slowly shook his head. He checked the corpses one by one, but he didn't find any identification. Jingyu and carried the two corpses of the guards into the carriage. And the scattered New Year goods, the New Year. What Jingyu didn't know was that while Jingyu was undergoing this series of changes, in a distant place, on a high platform in the forest, a figure was looking at the horizon. His eyes were full of seriousness and his pitch-black eyes flashed with a different kind of light. The daybreak star, the strange eyes, have appeared. A cold voice sounded. "High Priest, what should we do?" Another voice sounded behind him. "Find this person with the strange eyes. Kill the evil ones and spare the good ones." The slender figure slowly turned around and looked at the person in front of him. "This concerns the fate of our race. In this chaotic world, whether our race will prosper or be destroyed, the key lies with this person with the strange eyes." The person bowed and silently retreated, leaving the figure standing on the high platform alone. "I hope we can make it in time." The words that sounded like a sigh fell and everything returned to silence. Chapter 449. Jingyu and Jinglang came back with injuries all over their bodies. It really gave the people in the Jing residence a shock. Jingzhan almost fell out of his wheelchair. It was close to the end of the year, but such a thing still happened. It really made Jingzhan furious. He ordered a strict investigation. Jingyu and Jinglang had their wounds bandaged. They needed to rest well. Fortunately, these wounds didn't hurt their vital parts. They were all superficial wounds. It would be the end of the year in 10 days, so there shouldn't be any major problems. Jinglang's injury was slightly serious. His right hand couldn't move vigorously for a short period of time. Jingzhan was very gratified about this. This meant that in this fight, Jinglang had been trying his best to protect Jingyu. The truth was obviously so, although Jingyu didn't need to be protected. After Xiaochen came back from outside the city and heard the news, he rushed to the Prime Minister's residence at the fastest speed. When he saw that Jingyu was safe and sound, his anxious heart slowly relaxed. When he learned that they were attacked by a group of black-clothed men, Xiaochen was furious and ordered a strict investigation. Big brother, this is the porridge I made. I'll feed you. In order to express her gratitude to Jing Lang, Jing Yu volunteered to take care of him. Jing Lang was happy for a long time because of this. However, after the first day of care, Jing Lang almost ran away when he saw Jing Yu. At this moment, Jing Yu came to Jing Lang with a bowl of black stuff. When Jing Lang heard that Jing Yu made it herself, his face turned pale and he couldn't sit still. When Jing Zhan heard this, he smiled and said, "You heir is really sensible." Jing Lang almost vomited 3 liters of blood. I need to go to the toilet. As Jing Lang said this, he quickly stood up and was about to leave. Stop. Jing Zhan frowned and stared at Jing Lang. You just went there a while ago. Why are you in such a hurry? Sit down. Father. Jing Lang looked like he was about to cry. You heir personally made the porridge for you. Drink it quickly. Jing Zhan stared at Jing Lang and muttered, You really don't know how to enjoy the good fortune. Jing Lang wanted to cry but had no tears. If he had enjoyed this blessing a few more times, he would probably have a short life. That's right. Big brother, try it and see if it tastes good. Jing Yu smiled as she placed the bowl of porridge in front of Jing Lang. Her watery eyes were filled with anticipation as she looked at Jing Lang. Looking at the black porridge, Jing Lang felt goosebumps all over his body. This is... Jing Lang swallowed his saliva and said, I'm not hungry yet. You can eat even if you're not hungry. It's good for the body, Jing Yu said with a smile. Cough, cough, cough. Jing Yu coughed. Under the double pressure of Jing Yu and Jing Zhan, he shakily scooped up a spoonful of porridge. He looked at the porridge countless times and wanted to put it down, but when he saw Jing Yu and Jing Zhan's gazes, he had no choice but to continue bringing it to his mouth. In the end, Jing Lang put the porridge into his mouth with a look of death. In an instant, the sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy feeling came and almost made Jing Lang cry. Is this really porridge? Jing Yu can be considered the #1 person in the world to be able to cook porridge to this degree. Is it delicious? Jing Yu looked at Jing Lang with great interest and asked. Jing Lang couldn't speak anymore. He could only hold his head and nod. You heir's cooking is so good? Jing Zhan laughed loudly and said, This kid's mouth is so picky. I didn't expect him to say that you heir's cooking is delicious. Chapter 450. Daddy should try it too. Jing Yu smiled shyly and signaled for Jing Zhan to try it as well. Jing Zhan's eyes lit up when he heard that. He hesitated for a moment, then laughed and agreed. Jing Lang's expression became strange, but he didn't stop Jing Zhan. He just watched with a conflicted gaze. There's porridge. Jing Zhan sighed. He finally got to eat porridge personally cooked by his daughter. Jing Zhan was very gratified. He scooped up a spoonful of porridge and put it into his mouth with great satisfaction. The moment the porridge entered his mouth, the smile on his face changed unpredictably. Jing Lang looked at his father, who was dumbfounded, and laughed out loud. Dad, how is this porridge? Cough, cough, cough. Jing Zhan coughed violently. After holding it in for a long time, he finally said, Unique. Jing Yu cheered. Before Jing Zhan left, he said earnestly to Jing Yu, Don't go to the kitchen in the future. Your brother has a servant girl to serve him. You should recuperate and play in your own courtyard. Remember, don't go to the kitchen. After saying that, Jing Zhan left with a sigh. In the blink of an eye, it was New Year's Eve. Jing Yu and Jing Lang's bodies had almost recovered. The main reason for this was Qing Ge, the miracle medicine from Godly Physician Valley. This was the first time Jing Yu spent New Year's Eve with her family. Everyone at the table was very lively as they ate the reunion dinner. After the New Year's Eve dinner, there was a fireworks display. Jing Yu watched Jing Lang and Jing Yu play for a while before returning to the house. Jing Yu looked at Jing Zhan's back, holding the fireworks in her hand. She frowned slightly and asked Jing Lang, Big brother, where did Daddy go? Father went to see Mother. Jing Lang paused slightly and said, Father does this every year. It's fine. Oh. Jing Yu responded. She suddenly felt very curious about her mother. She paused slightly and raised her hand to stuff the fireworks in her hand into Jing Lang's hand. Under Jing Lang's surprised gaze, Jingyu ran towards Jingzhan's house. Uncle Lu was standing guard outside the house. When he saw Jingyu's arrival, he seemed surprised. Then he bowed slightly to Jingyu and carefully opened the door. Jingyu bit her lips slightly and walked into the house with light steps. This was Jingzhan's house. It was Jingyu's first time entering. It was very clean and simple. There were almost no decorations. In the inner room, Jingzhan sat quietly in a wheelchair. In front of Jingzhan, there was a portrait of a woman. Jingyu walked over step by step and stopped when she saw the person in the portrait. In terms of appearance, Jingyu and the woman in the portrait were no doubt similar. However, in the person in the portrait, Jingyu saw a gentle and moving heart. She had a unique air of elegance. That faint smile on her lips and moving eyes seemed to be filled with warmth. You're here." Jingzhan didn't seem surprised by Jingyu's arrival. His eyes were filled with pity as he waved at Jingyu. "This is my mother?" Jingyu blinked and asked as she looked at the portrait in front of her. "Yes." Jingzhan slowly nodded and said, "Your mother's name is Qi Yun. When I met her, she was only 15 or 16 years old." "Father." Jingyu blinked and her eyes were filled with confusion. She said, "Who is my mother?" Why is that?" "Mother knows." "Father, you also know, right?" Jingyu pursed her lips and asked Jingzhan. Chapter 451. "Ha!" Jingzhan laughed and said, "I was wondering when you would ask me." "Father." Jingyu's heart trembled. She looked at Jingzhan in horror and asked, "Yes, I know." Jingzhan nodded slowly and gestured for Jingyu to sit down. He raised his hand and poured a cup of tea for himself and Jingyu and said, "Your mother was the same as you. She had strange pupils." "What?" Jingyu's eyes widened in shock when she heard this. She looked at the painting on the wall and her heart trembled slightly. They both had strange pupils. How could she die so easily? "But this world is very big. It's bigger than you can imagine." Jingzhan said faintly, "There are not only countries in this world. There are also people with strange abilities hidden all over the world. We call them the natives. The Miracle Physician Valley is a clan that is well known and deeply rooted in people's hearts. In the past, there were many prominent nobles who sought out Maoshan sorcerers and the like in order to seek immortality. Your mother was one of these clansmen." Jingzhan quietly lowered his head and said, "Her clan believed in young Master Ming. They were able to observe the stars and were rumored to be able to predict the future. They were once respected as the imperial advisor. However, the king felt that the imperial advisor was a threat to him, so he banished the Holy Family and sent troops to kill them. The imperial advisor fled with her clansmen and hid in the mountains. In the end, they escaped to a very strange place. There was a magnificent house and a statue of young Master Ming. The imperial advisor believed that this place was destined to be where her clansmen lived. They knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times and hid here. On the first day they lived here, when they were cleaning the statue, they accidentally found a baby hidden under the statue. The baby was on the brink of death. Everyone thought that the baby would not survive, but when she was picked up, the baby opened her eyes. She had a pair of beautiful eyes. The people of the Holy Family were very surprised. They thought that the child was young Master Ming's child, so they raised him. More than 10 years later, the child grew up day by day, and the number of different pupils appearing increased. The king's men finally came here. Just when the people of the Holy Family thought that they would not be able to escape death this time, they were saved by the child with different pupils. Rumor has it that during that battle, the saintess commanded the beasts to protect the safety of the Holy Family. She announced that she would live here peacefully and would not disturb the world. She signed a contract with the king and left the matter unsettled. Jingzhan's voice was very calm. He lightly said, "Your mother was a member of the Holy Family. She had different pupils and was called the saintess. So many years have passed. What happened back then has already become a legend. However, the other pupil really exists. The other pupil is an inheritance. When you give birth to a child with the other pupil that originally belonged to you will disappear and you will become an ordinary person. This is also why your mother couldn't escape alive. Jing Zhan's eyes were filled with grief. Then why is my mother here? Shouldn't she be in the Holy Family? Jing Yu's heart was in a mess. Her mind was in a mess. The Holy Family has disappeared for too long. It has been so long that people have forgotten that the Holy Family has the ability to predict the future. Jing Zhan pursed his lips and said, "Your mother was young and naive. She ran away from the Holy Family and did not come in contact with the dirty and messy outside world. I saved her and fell in love with her." Chapter 452. I've known for a long time that she was different, but she didn't tell me the truth until our wedding. Jing Zhan sighed and said, "The Holy Family hates the secular world. She didn't know what terrible things would happen if you were sent back to the Holy Family, so she hid her identity. The bead around your neck can hide your different pupils. Your mother never took it off." Jing Zhan's gaze fell on Jing Yu's neck as he spoke. "So that's how it is." Jing Yu frowned. You must never take off the bead. Your mother once said, "They will find you." Jing Zhan sighed. When Jing Yu left, Jing Zhan was still looking at the portrait in the room. The cold wind blew in the cold night. Jing Yu walked alone in the hallway of the Prime Minister's residence. She still hadn't recovered from what Jing Zhan had told her. After letting her imagination run wild for a long time, Jing Yu suddenly stopped in her tracks. Damn, Dad actually slept with the holy daughter of the Holy Family. Oh my God! Jing Yu's eyes widened in shock. She suddenly felt that the Holy Family was so awesome. The holy daughter that they were so proud of had been slept with by Dad. They even gave birth to 2 children. Oh my God, Dad is so powerful. Jing Yu sighed in her heart. It seemed that she had to be careful in the future. The Holy Family was probably going crazy. Her eyes couldn't be exposed. Jing Yu was extremely sad. She hadn't done anything good. Why did she suddenly have so many enemies? First, it was Xiao Chen's damned ex-girlfriend. She could be considered an ex-girlfriend for now. Then, it was this Holy Family that Mom had created. Oh my God! She was going to be played to death. Jing Yu returned to her room with a heart full of hidden bitterness. She thought about the matter carefully and finally sighed silently. Different situations call for different actions. She had better go to bed first. On the first day of the new year, Jing Yu went to the palace to congratulate. Jing Yu stayed at home in the name of being unwell. For a few days, Jing Yu seemed to have nothing to do. Early in the morning, she wanted to go to the new house. The house had been completed. Jing Zhan said that he wanted to hold a banquet or something, but Jing Yu was unwilling. Wasn't it just building a new home? Don't make it so troublesome. Jing Yu changed her clothes and went out with Yin Xiao. However, just as she reached the front door of the Prime Minister's residence, she saw Xiao Chen, who lifted the curtain and walked down from the carriage. "Why are you so enthusiastic today? Have you come out to welcome this king?" Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu in her festive red dress and asked with a faint smile. "Xiao Chen, your face fell." Jing Yu rolled her eyes speechlessly and skipped toward Xiao Chen. She tugged on Xiao Chen's arm and said, "How long has it been since you came to see me? You actually want me to come out to welcome you? If I knew that you were coming today, I would have ordered to keep you outside the door." Xiao Chen's face darkened. He raised his hand and hugged Jing Yu's waist and said faintly, "Where are you planning to go?" "To the new house." "Do you want to go?" Jing Yu raised her head and looked at Xiao Chen. She suddenly felt that she seemed to have grown a lot taller. Now that she stood beside Xiao Chen, she appeared petite. However, this tall figure was already outstanding among the girls. "Naturally." Xiao Chen nodded in response. He held Jing Yu's hand and sat in the carriage. Jing Yu sat casually in the carriage as usual. Chapter 453. However, Xiao Chen didn't know if it was his misconception, but the current Jing Yu wasn't as unbearable as before. Instead, the current Jing Yu casually sat down had a natural, free and easy feeling. Her curvaceous figure and slender hands supported her chin. "Jing Yu?" Xiao Chen suddenly called out. Jing Yu's eyes wandered as she tilted her head to look at him. Her exposed snow-white neck and her blinking eyes carried a different kind of allure. The current Jingyu couldn't be considered a peerless beauty just based on her face alone, but her pair of eyes and her unique temperament were exceptionally moving. Our wedding day is in 4 months. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu with a burning gaze as he spoke. I know. Jingyu leaned against the wall of the carriage and said with a light smile, Xiaochen, if you don't give me enough betrothal gifts, this lady will run away from the marriage. You won't have that chance. Xiaochen chuckled and raised his hand to pull Jingyu into his embrace. He raised his hand to lift up Jingyu's chin and looked at this beautiful woman lying in his embrace. He bent down and kissed her. Jingyu raised her hand to hook onto Xiaochen's neck and responded softly. When the carriage arrived at the gate of the residence, Xing Yi and Yin Xiao waited outside for a long time but didn't see Xiaochen and Jingyu come out. Just as they were thinking about whether they should go up and ask, the curtains of the carriage slowly opened. Seeing Jingyu's slightly flushed face and her slightly swollen lips, Yin Xiao and Xing Yi both silently lowered their heads. These two were really like wolves and tigers. The gate of the residence was almost exactly the same as the other residences on the street. Jingyu revealed her identity and led Xiaochen and the rest in. The moment they entered, they saw a small path in a bamboo forest. It didn't look like a residence at all. After passing through the bamboo forest, the view in front of them suddenly opened up. The stone table and pavilion, the lake, the plants, the rockery, and the fish were all so harmonious and beautiful. The most shocking thing was that they had never seen this building before. This was actually a house? Both Yi Xing and Yin Xiao looked at the door. Their eyes were filled with astonishment as they looked at the door that was engraved with such complicated patterns. Jingyu raised her hand and pushed the door open. Inside, there was an extremely exquisite architectural style. Even the decorations were so stunning. This is the living room, dining table, kitchen, and guest room. Jing introduced it excitedly. On the second floor, there is a master bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and a study room. This staircase is so exquisite. Yin Xiao looked at the spiral staircase, her eyes filled with astonishment. Everyone, feel free to look around. Jingyu smiled and allowed Yin Xiao and Xing Yi to walk around. Behind the house was the swimming pool. In order to build this swimming pool, Jingyu specially designed a project that could convert hot and cold water. In order to make this thing, Jingyu put in a lot of effort. After that, there was a garden and other random things. In short, this place was a combination of ancient and modern times. Compared to the extravagance of the palace, Jingyu's residence was unique and exquisite. Xiaochen was obviously very satisfied with the result. Jingyu was very fond of bamboo, so she planted bamboos all around the courtyard. How is it? Jingyu looked at Xiaochen as if she was showing off. Very good. Xiaochen nodded lightly and said, This is our new house? After the wedding, we can move here. Jingyu was jumping in her heart. What do you mean by our? It's obviously mine. Mine. Chapter 454. Of course. Jingyu nodded with a smile. You brought all the good things from Tokyo. Xiaochen looked at the luminous pearls embedded in every corner with a smile in his eyes. He was wondering why Jingyu went all over the world to look for the luminous pearls. It turned out that she wanted to use them like this. Of course. Jingyu raised her chin and said, This is my house. Naturally, it has to be very good. Very good. Xiaochen praised again and pulled Jingyu to sit on the soft sofa. He looked at the coffee table in front of him and raised his eyebrows with interest. This design was indeed unique. Xiaochen nodded with satisfaction. You haven't told me why you came to see me today. Jingyu asked while lying on the spacious sofa. The sofa was not as soft as the sofa in the modern world. I came for the assassination last time. Xiaochen pursed his lips and said, I found out who did it, but I'm not sure. Who's it? Jingyu looked serious and stared at Xiaochen. It's her. Xiaochen lowered his eyes and pursed his lips and said, Although there is no evidence, my intuition tells me that it's her. Jingyu naturally knew who Xiaochen was talking about. It was Xiaochen's ex-girlfriend. Why did she suddenly want to kill me? Was she angry because of embarrassment? Last time, she didn't ruin my reputation. This time she wanted to kill me? Jing Yu was speechless and frowned. Although she had only met this woman once, this woman hated Jing Yu. She definitely couldn't bear to kill her. So this is what I find strange. Xiao Chun frowned and said, I'm also very puzzled about this. She shouldn't have killed you, ah? Jing Yu's heart trembled and she frowned with some doubts. I'm fine. Xiao Chun stood up and said, I will investigate this matter. Don't run around for the next few days. I got the news from the emperor that the hidden family seems to be on the move. Something big is going to happen. You have to be careful. What's a hidden clan? Jing Yu was slightly stunned. Why was there another hidden clan? The hidden clan is also known as the Holy Family. I once read the royal records, and it was recorded that the high priest of the Holy Family was originally the country's state teacher. That was a long time ago, Xiao Chun said with a frown. Oh, so it's the Holy Family, Jing Yu breathed a sigh of relief and said, I know, I'll be careful. Jing Yu nodded in agreement. As the two were talking, Xing Yi and Yin Xiao also came back. Looking at their faces full of excitement and unsatisfied expressions, they were clearly very happy. Xiao Chen's words were indeed correct. These days seemed to be very unstable. Nothing could be seen in the imperial city, but outside the imperial city, there were suddenly a lot of burning, killing, and looting. There were also a lot more Taoists holding horsetail whisks and monks wearing monk robes. This chaotic situation was originally outside of the imperial city, so Jing Yu didn't take it to heart. She still did what she wanted to do every day. The bra that Jing Yu worked so hard on finally opened up the market under Jing Yu's unremitting efforts. Yao Rong and Yao Yu naturally had a lot of credit for this. When Jing Yu first heard that Jing Yu was doing this, he made a big fuss and said that it was too embarrassing to teach Jing Yu how to be so bold. Chapter 455. But in the end, when they found out that this thing was popular among women and was sold at a price that was unheard of, those who used to be smaller than themselves were all envious when they wore it and asked around. All of them came for Jing Yu's bra. For 3 whole months, Jing Yu fiercely made this bra popular in the city and Jing Yu's family was rich again. The 15th of March was Jing Yu's coming-of-age ceremony. Before that, Jing Yu was ordered not to leave the Fu. Jing Yu felt that this was unfair, but she could do nothing about it and could only listen to Jing Zhan and stay in the Fu. The most hateful thing was that it was fine to stay in the Fu, but why did she have to learn embroidery? Jing Yu's hand was full of holes from being pricked by needles all day. Jing Yu started to suspect that if she drank water, would her fingers leak? Heavens, do they still want people to live? When night came, Jing Yu lay on the bed motionlessly like a dead dog. Yin Xiao obediently went up to massage Jing Yu's shoulders. Imperial concubine, the bride has to make her own clothes when she gets married. Imperial concubine has delayed it for 3 months. If you still don't make it, what will you wear when you get married next month? Yin Xiao pouted and said. Yin Xiao already had no strength to ridicule this young lady of her family. Originally, the new clothes were to be made after the new year, but in the end, Jing Yu ran out of the Fu early in the morning and came up with countless reasons to delay the new clothes. In the blink of an eye, it was the coming-of-age ceremony. In another month, it would be the day of her marriage. How could she wait? If it wasn't for Jing Zhan forbidding her from leaving the Fu and making her embroidery in the Fu, Jing Yu would probably still run away. If I knew that I couldn't escape, I would have obediently embroidered. Jing Yu cried until she was blind. What kind of broken custom was this in ancient times? She had to embroider the wedding clothes herself. Modern times were so good, she could just buy it. Imperial concubine, it's still not too late to embroider now. As long as Imperial concubine doesn't slack off every day and learns properly from Nanny, Yin Xiao said earnestly. Jing Yu buried her head in the quilt. Embroidery was really not something a human could do. On the 15th of March, Jing Yu's coming-of-age ceremony was finally held. The restaurants were all in attendance, and the Prime Minister's mansion was rarely lively. As the main character of today's ceremony, Jing Yu naturally had to dress up well. The clothes that Jing Yu was wearing were made by Ni Chongyuan. The main color was bright red with a white color scheme and golden thread. It looked very simple, but when she wore it, it was very stunning. Jingyu was a girl, so her coming-of-age ceremony wasn't too grand. Only friends were invited. Qinggu and Ijuan naturally came. Suhe also came with the fully recovered Erwan. Shangguan Linglan and Shangguan Minheo came together. Fang Ziqing naturally wouldn't be left behind. However, what was unexpected was that Xiaoqun didn't come alone. Instead, he came with the Crown Prince Xiao Yuling. This made Jingyu slightly surprised. However, she also felt relieved. If the Crown Prince wanted to come, how could she chase him away? When Jingyu arrived from the rear courtyard, the main hall was already filled with guests. Everyone was familiar with each other, so there was naturally no need for formalities. She originally thought that with the 9th emperors and the Crown Prince present, it would be uncomfortable. Fortunately, Xiao Yuling didn't put on airs as the Crown Prince and got along well with everyone. Your wedding is in a month's time, right? Halfway through the meal, Shangguan Linglan sat opposite Jingyu. His gaze landed on Jingyu and Xiaoqun. He smiled and said, "Jingyu, how is your embroidery of the wedding clothes?" Chapter 456. Cough, cough, cough. Jingyu coughed repeatedly. She lowered her head guiltily and said, "It's quite good, is that so?" Shangguan Linglan looked at Jingyu strangely. The words "I don't believe you" were written all over his face. Lu Miaoqiu, who was beside him, covered her mouth and chuckled. Others might not know about Jingyu, but who was Shangguan Linglan? If Jingyu was done with her embroidery, she would definitely take it out to show off. Looking at her current appearance, it was definitely not done. Speaking of this, I'm quite curious about what Imperial Uncle's betrothal gift will be like. The Crown Prince looked at Xiaoqun with a faint smile. Everyone's curiosity was piqued and they all turned to look at Xiaoqun. When Xiaoqun heard this, he calmly put down the chopsticks in his hand and said, "Be prepared to be jealous." Wow. Shangguan Linglan's eyes lit up and said, "Let's wait and see what the 9th emperors can take out to make us jealous." Xiaoqun's lips curled up, but he did not say anything. Jingyu's heart was excited. When she heard Xiaoqun's words, Jingyu instantly became excited. How could she have forgotten about this? Betrothal gift. That was a good thing. Who was the 9th emperors? The betrothal gift would definitely be more and less. Everyone laughed and joked. In the end, the banquet ended. Everyone did not leave. Instead, they played around in the Prime Minister's residence. Xiaoqun had already gone somewhere with Jingyu. Everyone was very relieved about this. After all, who would dare to say anything bad about the 9th emperors? In the backyard of the Prime Minister's residence, Jingyu and Xiaoqun sat in the pavilion and looked at the sparkling water. Jingyu was in a good mood. She supported her chin with her hand and looked at the ripples on the water. Xiaoqun was doing the same. He tilted his head and looked at Jingyu's side profile. The corners of his mouth curled up and he raised his hand to pull Jingyu into his embrace. Aya! Jingyu fell into Xiaoqun's embrace. A familiar smell filled her nose. Jingyu frowned and looked up at Xiaoqun. "Jingyu, our wedding is in a month's time." Xiaoqun was clearly in a good mood. He adjusted his position and hugged Jingyu in his embrace. He lowered his head and spoke. Jingyu blinked and looked at Xiaoqun with grievance. "In order to marry you, I have to embroider my own wedding dress. Look at the wound on my hand. Does it hurt?" Xiaoqun's face froze. He raised his hand, grabbed Jingyu's hand, and kissed it gently. He looked at Jingyu and asked in a low voice. Such a gentle and natural action made Jingyu's heart tremble violently. She pursed her lips and looked at Xiaoqun, whispering, "It doesn't hurt." Xiaoqun's lips curled up. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "If you don't want to embroider, then don't. I'll get someone to make one for you." "I don't want it." Jingyu wrapped her arms around Xiaoqun's neck. She rested her chin on Xiaoqun's shoulder and said, "It'll be done soon. If I don't embroider it now, wouldn't I be pricked for nothing?" Xiaoqun chuckled when he heard this. His arms around Jingyu's waist gradually tightened. Every time he thought about officially marrying Jingyu, Xiaoqun's heart couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't wait to have Jingyu by his side day and night. A breeze blew through the pavilion. Jingyu leaned comfortably on Xiao Chen's shoulder and closed her eyes. She could hear each other's heartbeats, steady and peaceful. Jingyu narrowed her eyes and looked at Xiao Chen's handsome side profile. Even a strand of hair was so handsome. Xiao Chen, Jingyu called out in a daze. Chapter 457. Okay. Jingyu thought for a moment and nodded. I will go back and explain this to my father. After the wedding, you all can leave. Okay. Qinggu smiled. I will leave my father in your care. Qinggu, thank you. Jingyu bowed to Qinggu solemnly. Qinggu was shocked. He waved his hand and jumped away. Jingyu imparted her skills to me. If I can cure Jingyu's father, I will be honored. When Jingyu saw Qinggu kneeling down, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. It was rare to see someone who knew how to repay kindness. Jingyu sent everyone out of the manor. Then, Jingyu told Qinggu and Jingzhan what she had said to Jinglang and Jingzhan. At first, when he heard that there was a possibility of his legs being cured, Jingzhan was excited. But when he heard that he had to go to Godly Physician Valley for treatment, Jingzhan hesitated. My legs have been like this for over a decade. It doesn't matter if it is cured or not. Jingzhan looked down at his legs and said, I have only been with you for such a short time. I don't want to be separated from you. Who knows what will happen after this separation? Father. Jingyu was shocked. She looked at Jingzhan with a complicated gaze. As long as doesn't dislike me, it doesn't matter if my legs are cured or not. Jingzhan shook his head and smiled. I really don't want to be separated from you, That, I don't want to sounded so real. Jinglang, who was standing at the side, clenched his fists tightly and turned his head away. His eyes were wide open and slightly red. This time, their separation had caused his family to break up. It was a kind of mistake to be afraid after making it once. Jingzhan was really afraid. Father, I am fine. Jingyu walked towards Jingzhan and squatted beside his wheelchair. She looked up at Jingzhan and said, When I get married to Xiao Qin, no one in the imperial city will dare to bully me. Moreover, I will have my brother by my side to take care of me. Jingzhan tenderly stroked Jingyu's head. His eyes were filled with reluctance. Trembling, he stared at Jingyu and said, Let's wait a little longer. Let's wait another year before father goes to treat you. I still want to see you more. I won't be at ease if I don't see you. Jingyu felt her nose tingle. Once upon a time, she had longed for family. She had imagined it countless times in her dreams, but she didn't know what it felt like. Now, she finally had family. So this was what it felt like to have someone who was so considerate of you. It was so warm that it brought tears to her eyes. All right, then let you be filial to father for another year. Jingyu smiled. Jingzhan smiled happily. He hugged Jingyu and sighed contentedly. This was his daughter. Some things were destined. If Jingyu could predict the future, then Jingyu would definitely send Jingzhan to Godly Medical Valley without hesitation. However, Jingyu couldn't predict the future. The biggest event of the 4th month was the marriage of the 9th emperors. Once, the marriage of the 9th emperors was the biggest sensation. Now it was still the same. The first dozen or so 9th imperial concubines all died mysteriously on the eve of their wedding. Everyone was curious. Could the most controversial 9th imperial concubine be able to break this strange curse? The first dozen or so 9th imperial concubines didn't give betrothal gifts when they married. However, this 9th imperial concubine was different. Imperial concubine, quickly wake up. Early in the morning, Yin Xiao's pleasantly surprised voice ravaged Jingyu, who was still sleeping. What? Is it a fire or an earthquake? What are you shouting for? Jingyu's face was full of anger. She stared at Yin Xiao and asked with a frown as if she hadn't woken up yet. Chapter 458. None of them. Yin Xiao excitedly pulled Jingyu's hand and said, The 9th emperors sent the betrothal gifts over. There are so many things. Our Prime Minister Fu's storeroom almost can't hold them all. What? Jingyu was so shocked that her eyes widened. She was stunned for a moment before she hurriedly stood up and said, Quick, give me the clothes. Let's go take a look. Jing Yu randomly put on a set of clothes, washed up, and headed towards the main hall. However, when she reached the main hall, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. She saw that the entire main hall was piled up with faces. There wasn't even a place to stand. Boxes after boxes of glistening gold were opened. Our ninth master said that the imperial consort likes gold. Therefore, these silks and satins have all been changed to gold. There are a total of 108 boxes. Lord Jing, please kindly accept them. Xing Yi seriously repeated to Jing Zhan. Jing Zhan and Uncle Lu's expressions were very interesting. This was the first time they saw the betrothal gifts being given out like this. Wow, gold. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with money. She lay in front of the box of gold, her eyes shining. Cough. Xing Yi looked at Jing Yu's expression and helplessly shook his head as he said to Xing Yi, "Many thanks to the ninth emperors. May I trouble Lord Xing Yi to go back and tell them that the Prime Minister Fu has accepted the gifts." Xing Yi bowed slightly to Jing Yu and Jing Zhan and led the group away, leaving behind 108 boxes of gold. This was probably the simplest yet most extravagant betrothal gift in history. Jing Yu looked at the boxes of glistening gold being moved into the storeroom and saw stars. She was about to drool. It was as if she couldn't wait to hug a blanket and rush in to sleep in the pile of money. The ninth emperor's betrothal gift was definitely the first in history. It immediately blew up the entire imperial city. The streets and alleys were all talking about it. Which one of them wasn't envious? Jing Yu was very happy. However, this made Jing Zhan very worried. The betrothal gifts were already given. How was he going to prepare Jing Yu's dowry? What dowry? Jing Yu frowned. That's right. Imperial uncle gave 108 boxes of gold. The Prime Minister Fu has to give a corresponding dowry. I really don't know how Master is going to prepare it, Yin Xiao said as she looked at Jing Yu while she was massing Jing Yu's shoulders. Xiao Chen married me and even gave me to him. How dare he ask for my dowry? Jing Yu was furious. She walked towards Jing Zhan and waved her hand. Father, you don't have to prepare the dowry. Even if you do, Xiao Chen won't want it. You silly child. Jing Zhan was slightly stunned. Then he laughed and said, "This dowry isn't for the ninth emperors. It's for you. In the future, you will be a member of the Xiao family. This dowry will be your honor guard. How can I not prepare it? Father, Xiao Chen can let me be the honor guard." Jing Yu pouted and said, "If he dares to bully me, I will run back to the Prime Minister Fu and never go back." "Ha, you silly daughter." Jing Zhan laughed loudly. Looking at Jing Yu's conflicted expression, his heart was filled with reluctance. He had just found his daughter and now she was going to get married. Really? Father, you just need to prepare a little bit of the dowry. I know what to use as my dowry. Jing Yu suddenly thought of something and said with a smile. What? Jing Zhan was slightly stunned and asked in confusion. I'm going out for a while. Jing Yu said with a smile and ran off happily. She left behind a confused Jing Zhan in the study room. Chapter 459. When Jing Yu returned, only then did Jing Zhan know what Jing Yu wanted to use as her dowry. Jing Zhan's eyes widened as he looked at the title deeds that were placed on the table. His face was filled with astonishment. How could Jing Zhan not know what these things were? This is the title deed for Qin Lu. This is the title deed for Yu Qian Lai Restaurant. This is the title deed for Ni Chang Yuan. This is the title deed for Dian Xan Shop. This is the title deed for Beauty of the Nation. And this is the title deed for Mingbian Lakeside Residence. 6 locations, occupying half of the imperial city. Father, is this dowry enough for your daughter to rely on? Jing Yu smiled as she looked at Jing Zhan. These are all your properties? Not the 9th emperor's? Jing Zhan looked at Jing Yu's name written on the title deed. There was no mention of the 9th emperor's. Naturally. Jing Yu proudly raised her chin and said, I am only using the name of the 9th emperor's. Those guesses are all from the marketplace. These properties are all under my supervision. There is no falsehood. The title deed is here. How could I lie to father? Could. Jing Zhan laughed loudly and said, "You are indeed my daughter. With such a background, how could the 9th emperors not marry you?" Jing Yu smiled happily. These properties were included in her dowry. It was enough to match Xiao Chen's 108 stacks of gold. Doing this would only expose the background of these properties. But at this moment, even if it was exposed, so what? It would even raise Jing Yu's net worth. Which woman in the imperial city could compare to Jing Yu? These properties were Jing Yu's dowry. Even if she married into the prince's residence, Jing Yu would still be in charge. Xiao Chen naturally wouldn't be so bored as to fight with Jing Yu. After Jing Yu became the 9th imperial concubine, these properties would be firmly stationed in the imperial city. Who would dare to say no? April 18th, the date of the 9th emperor's wedding. The day before the wedding, the entire Jing Yu residence was busy and lively. Madame Mei was rarely happy. Jing Yu was finally going to leave the prime minister's residence. Jing Yu, who had disappeared for several days, actually appeared today. She was smiling as she congratulated Jing Yu. This made Jing Yu felt very strange. In order to show that Jing Yu was still alive and well, Jing Yu specially went out and walked around the entrance of the prime minister's residence. She wanted to shut the mouths of those people and prevent them from talking nonsense outside. The discussions on the streets and alleys were all about the wedding. The prime ministers and king's palaces were all busy with the wedding. No one noticed that in the alleys, a person completely covered in a black robe revealed a pair of venomous eyes. Looking at the sounds of discussion in the crowd, he silently turned and disappeared into the alleys. "Master!" A figure landed and stopped in front of the black figure. "How is it?" A light voice came from under the cloak. If Jing Yu was here, she would definitely recognize this voice. Wasn't this the woman who had almost ruined Jing Yu's innocence last time? The clansmen have all been expelled. Now there are less than 5 people left. They are still hiding in the cellar and don't dare to move. The black-robed man kneeling on the ground said respectfully, "Trash." The woman's voice suddenly became sharp. She clenched her fists tightly and her eyes were filled with anger. "Xiao Chen, you actually don't care about our past relationship and force me like this. How can I let you get married so easily?" Chapter 460. A bone-piercing cold laugh came from the woman's mouth. She said incomparably coldly, "Have those people come out. Tonight, I have an important matter for you all to do." The man's figure became solemn and he bowed in response. The surroundings returned to silence. No one saw or heard this scene. The prime minister's fu was in a mess. Everyone was organizing all kinds of things in preparation for tomorrow's big wedding. Jing Yu herself was not idle either. Empress Fei Yaju had personally invited a mama from the palace to teach Jing Yu the procedures of the wedding. Because Jing Yu did not have a mother, there was no one to teach her. Thus, the empress issued an imperial edict like the emperor had said. The mama in the palace was incomparably strict. Jing Yu complained incessantly in her heart. Why was it so tiring to get married? It wasn't until late at night that the mama quietly taught Jing Yu the matters of the bed that she finally let her go. Jing Yu's footsteps were completely unsteady as she walked back to her room with stars in her eyes. She allowed Yin Xiao to undress and wash her face. Then the day finally passed. Jing Yu could only think of the many things that would happen at tomorrow's big wedding. She immediately felt her legs tremble. She cursed fiercely in her heart. She definitely had to make Xiao Chen suffer a little. By the time she was overcome by sleepiness, it was already late at night. The surroundings were silent and the incense in the room was still. It was all because of Yin Xiao. That girl said that she wanted to light some incense to add to the festive atmosphere. At first, Jing Yu did not like the smell. However, as time passed, she did not dislike it as much. During the day, Jing Yu could still smell it. However, when she slept at night, it was really uncomfortable to smell it. Jing Yu tossed and turned several times but could not fall asleep. She drowsily got up and wanted to extinguish the incense. However, when she walked step by step, she felt that her vision was a little blurry and her footsteps were very weak. Jing Yu's heart skipped a beat. A gust of cold wind blew, and a pitch-black figure stood in front of her. Jing Yu's eyes widened. She reflexively wanted to dodge and defend herself, but she couldn't muster any strength. She screamed in her heart, "Oh no!" Before she could react, she felt a pain at the back of her neck and lost consciousness. No one noticed that in the dark night, a black shadow carrying a sack leaped out of the Prime Minister's manor and ran all the way up the mountain. Jing Yu didn't have any consciousness on the bumpy road, but halfway there, she woke up in a daze. She seemed to feel that she wasn't dead and fainted again. The night wind was slightly chilly. A figure stood at the top of the mountain. Her body was petite and graceful, and she was dressed in red. 2 lanterns hung at the top of the mountain, illuminating the world and reflecting on the woman's face. "Master, I've brought her here." The black shadow dropped Jing Yu to the ground and knelt down respectfully. "Wake her up." The woman slightly narrowed her eyes and said faintly, "Yes." The man turned and walked towards Jing Yu, who was lying on the ground. He pinched Jing Yu's philtrum and woke her up. "Let go." Jing Yu pushed the man away and looked at the place in front of her. She was slightly stunned. She remembered this place. During the Double Ninth Festival last year, Xiaochen took her up the mountain to admire the chrysanthemums. This was the place where they admired the chrysanthemums. In front of Jing Yu stood 2 people. One was the man in black, and the other was a woman dressed in red. Jing Yu also recognized the clothes that the woman was wearing. During the Empress Dowager's birthday, when she followed Hellion Theo to the palace, Hellion Theo gave her this set of clothes. "Nailin Yu." The corners of Jing Yu's mouth curled into a cold smile. She narrowed her eyes and spat out these 3 words coldly. At this moment, the woman also slowly turned around. Her beautiful face was revealed in front of Jing Yu. Her pair of eyes with a different flavor were very seductive. The corners of her moving mouth curled into a faint smile. Chapter 462. Antidote. Jing Yu's throat felt dry. "It's you!" Nailin Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light as she stared at Jing Yu. "I think you must have seen Xiao Chen's appearance when the poison flared up, and you must know about the blood medicine. The antidote to the poison is the blood of those with different pupils. Those with different pupils can tame beasts. Xiao Chen went to every forest in every country to find someone who could tame beasts. In the end, he found you in the Roman forest." Nailin Yu's eyes shined as she looked at Jing Yu. In a corner where Jing Yu couldn't see, Nailin Yu's eyes were filled with emotions. Jing Yu's mind was blown. Scenes of the past flashed through her mind. There was a voice in her body that was screaming that this woman was a liar and that she couldn't believe her. However, from the beginning, Xiao Chen had treated her differently and cared for her. He was clearly the 9th emperor. He was below 1 person and below 10,000 people. How could he tolerate a wild child like her acting as an accomplice to a villain? She didn't understand, but now, she seemed to understand. "Jing Yu, you have different pupils and you can tame beasts. Only by drinking your blood can the poison be cured. If you are willing to give up your blood, then it won't hurt you and Xiao Chen won't make things difficult for you. It will also make you completely loyal to him. This is also why Xiao Chen kept hiding it from you and wanted to marry you." Nailin Yu's voice continued. "But, how can my Xiao Chen marry someone else?" Nailin Yu seemed to be very dissatisfied as she frowned and said, "I will imprison you and drain your blood to cure Xiao Chen's poison. Now that I am fine, I can stay by Xiao Chen's side. You don't need to exist anymore. Do you understand? Do you think I will believe your nonsense?" Jing Yu took a deep breath and looked at Nailin Yu with incomparable coldness. "Whether you believe it or not is not important." Nailin Yu smiled and said, "Xiao Chen has already promised me that he won't go fetch the bride. If you don't believe me, you'll know tomorrow." Jing Yu sneered and didn't reply. Jing Yu seemed very pleased with herself as she looked at Jing Yu. She smiled and said, "Tomorrow, Xiao Chen said that he wants to meet me at the Feng Qing Inn. And the time of the meeting is when he is going to marry you. Since you think I'm lying, why don't you take a look at the wedding procession and see if it is led by Xiao Chen himself?" Jing Yu. Nailin Yu turned around and stared at Jing Yu as she said, "In the past, Xiao Chen always called me you." "What did he call you?" Nailin Yu left, but Jing Yu was still standing in the same place. Jingyu, who was only wearing her undergarments, looked somewhat bleak. Her body gradually became cold, and it seemed that even her beating heart was somewhat cold. She silently turned around and walked down the mountain step by step. Originally, Jingyu thought that the stairs were very annoying, but now, she walked down step by step as if she didn't feel anything. With her head lowered, she couldn't see the expression on Jingyu's face. She didn't feel sad, nor did she cry. She just walked back to the Prime Minister's residence like she was taking a stroll. Jingyu's sudden return shocked everyone in the Prime Minister's residence. However, after everyone asked her for a long time, Jingyu didn't say a word. She just walked back to her room and lay down, slowly closing her eyes. In the hearts of Jing Zhan and Jing Lang, there was a bit of unease. They didn't know what had happened to Jingyu, but the news of Jingyu returning from the outside the night before the wedding couldn't be spread no matter what. They immediately ordered everyone to keep their mouths shut, and at the same time, increased the number of guards in Jingyu's courtyard. The night passed very quickly, but it also seemed very long. When Yin Xiao brought people to help Jingyu dress up, Jingyu, who had always been lazing in bed, sat in front of the dressing table very early today. Chapter 463. The imperial concubine can't wait to marry the 9th emperors. Yin Xiao joked, but Jingyu did not react at all. She just stared at the bronze mirror without saying a word. Yin Xiao's figure stiffened. She exchanged glances with the person beside her, and both of them had a worried expression on their faces. However, she didn't dare to ask and didn't say anything else. She quietly helped Jingyu dress up. She put on one piece of jewelry after another and went through various makeup procedures. Jingyu didn't make a sound. The sky was bright and the sound of firecrackers could be heard outside. Jingyu put on the last piece of jewelry. The swaying bead curtain blocked Jingyu's face and a wedding handkerchief was placed on top of her head. Her vision turned red. The imperial concubine should eat something. When the 9th emperor comes to fetch the bride, you won't be able to eat for a long time. Yin Xiao secretly placed a piece of cake in front of Jingyu. Jingyu finally moved. She slowly shook her head and said, "Let's go and see if Xiaochen has come." When Yin Xiao heard that Jingyu finally spoke, she was instantly delighted. She responded and quickly walked towards the door of the Prime Minister's residence. Yin Xiao left for a long time. The sound of firecrackers was silent. The maidservants serving Jingyu felt strange. Wasn't the auspicious hour coming soon? Why wasn't there any movement? They're here, they're here. The bridal procession is here. Yin Xiao ran in happily. As Yin Xiao's words fell, the sound of firecrackers could be heard. Jingyu, who had been tensed up, finally relaxed. A faint smile appeared on her face. The bride is getting up. Cheers could be heard. Everyone smiled as they helped Jingyu up. They walked over the threshold and walked towards the door step by step. Their ears were filled with blessings. They finally reached the main hall. Jing Zhan and Jingyu were waiting for Jingyu's arrival. "Father, big brother." Jingyu bowed slightly. "You." Jing Zhan pushed Jing Zhan forward. Jingyu stared at the ground. She turned her head but did not see a pair of familiar shoes. She was shocked. She grasped the brocade handkerchief in her hand and asked, "Where is Xiaochen? Why didn't he come in?" "Ahem." Jing Zhan coughed and said, "The 9th emperors are royalty. Why would he personally come to pick up the bride? The person who came to pick up the bride is the sworn brother of the 9th emperors. He is that godly doctor, Qingge." What? Jingyu abruptly lifted her hand and lifted the bridal veil covering her head. She looked around in shock, but she didn't see Xiaochen. The 9 emperors wouldn't come to pick up the bride, but Xiaochen would. Because he said so. Why did you lift the bridal veil? Quickly cover it up. This is bad luck." Jing Zhan was shocked by Jingyu's reaction and quickly said. The group of maidservants behind him also rushed forward to cover Jingyu. However, Jingyu unceremoniously lifted the veil. She turned and ran towards the main door. The crowd behind her cried out in alarm. They quickly chased after her and shouted for Jingyu to come back. However, how could Jingyu listen to them? Jing Yu ran out of the main door of the Prime Minister's residence. The crowd outside was still sighing at the spectacle of the wedding procession. When they saw Jing Yu run out like this, they all cried out in alarm. Qinggu, who was wearing a red robe, stood in front of the procession with a dry smile. He felt weak in his heart. When he saw Jing Yu run out like this, he immediately cried out in alarm. "This is bad." Ninth sister-in-law. Qinggu nervously looked at Jing Yu and stuttered. Chapter 464. Where's Xiao Qin? Jing Yu probably didn't know how calm her voice was at this moment. It was so calm that it was abnormal. Ninth brother. Ninth brother is waiting for ninth sister-in-law in the prince's mansion. Qinggu swallowed silently and cried in his heart. If he knew where Xiao Qin was, he wouldn't have come to fetch the bride. "You're lying!" Jing Yu shouted angrily. "You don't know where Xiao Qin is, do you?" How do you know?" Qinggu was shocked by Jing Yu's shout. He couldn't help but answer Jing Yu's questions. As soon as he said that, Qinggu wanted to slap his own mouth. He shouted in his heart, "My mouth should be sewn up." Jing Yu didn't say anything else. She pushed Qinggu to the side without any trace of politeness. Then, she grabbed the horse that the people behind Qinggu were riding. She jumped onto the horse and galloped away as if she had gone crazy under everyone's horrified gaze. When Jing Zhan, Jing Lang, and the others came out and saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. The people who came to fetch the bride were also stunned. The bride had run away. Jing Yu ran on the street without a care. There was only one voice in her head, "Xiao Qin, if you dare to betray me, I won't let you off." Jing Yu's horse galloped on the street. In a certain restaurant, an enchanting figure seemed to be holding a cup of wine. Suddenly, she saw the horse galloping by and saw Jing Yu sitting on the horse. She was stunned for a moment. Then, she threw down an ingot of silver and ran down the restaurant to chase after Jing Yu. The words "Feng Cheng In" were so dazzling to Jing Yu. Jing Yu jumped off the horse and strode out. The inn's waiter looked at Jing Yu in her wedding dress and was stunned for a long time. Jing Yu stared coldly at the waiter and said, "Where is Nailin Yu?" "Ah?" The waiter was stunned for a moment. Then he stuttered and said, Second floor." Jing Yu rushed to the second floor with large strides. However, she didn't know which room she was in. At this moment, Jing Yu heard the sound of tender laughter. In this quiet second floor, the sound was so ear-piercing. Jing Yu's heart slowly calmed down. She walked steadily towards the sound. Behind the half-closed door, two bodies were lying on the bed. How could Jing Yu not be familiar with the clothes on the floor? The sachet on the clothes, the ugly embroidery. If it wasn't Jing Yu who gave Xiao Qin, who else could it be? On the bed, Jing Yu called out Xiao Qin's name emotionally. It was so laughable. At this moment, Jing Yu's heart almost stopped beating. On the day of her wedding, her husband was rolling around with another woman. Too laughable. So it was all a lie. She was the only one who put in her heart and amused herself. She was completely convinced that he loved her. Jing Yu slowly turned around. She didn't make a single sound. She just listened to the sounds of their lovemaking and walked down the stairs of the inn. There were many people standing below. Jing Yu's face was blocked by a beaded curtain, so no one could see clearly. However, the man who had just arrived, dressed in noble clothes and had an enchanting face, recognized her. "What's wrong with you?" Hellion Theo looked at Jing Yu with uncertainty. Jing Yu raised her head and looked at Hellion Theo's face in a daze. The corners of her mouth hooked up into a smile. She widened her eyes as if she didn't want to let the tears in her eyes fall. However, she couldn't stop them from flowing out. Jing Yu said in a hoarse voice, "Take me home, okay?" Chapter 465. That frail and petite figure looked at Hellion Theo with tears in her eyes. At this moment, Hellion Theo's heart trembled violently. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Hellion Theo bent down and carried Jing Yu in his arms. He mounted the horse and rode towards the Prime Minister's residence. As the clamor faded away, Jing Yu's eyes widened. However, there was no light in her eyes. Her mind was filled with the scene that she had just seen. The sachet that was carelessly thrown to the ground was the first gift he had given her. He clearly hated it, right? However, he had no choice but to accept it in order to deal with her. What poisoning? What protecting her? It was all fake. Jingyu's heart throbbed violently at this moment. How many lies did Xiaochen tell her? Those words that warmed her heart, how much of them were sincere when he said them? Xiaochen, you are really too cruel. When Heli and Theo brought Jingyu back, the bridal procession had been waiting for a long time. Now, they saw the bride being brought back by a strange man. Moreover, she was being carried in the man's arms. Everyone was shocked to see this scene. You can all go back. Jingyu stood up straight. She looked at Qinggu and said, I am not getting married. The betrothal gifts will all be returned. What? Everyone was shocked. She was not getting married just like that? When Jing Zhan and Jing Lang saw Jingyu's appearance, they became suspicious. From what they knew, Jingyu was not someone who did not know the gravity of the situation. Something must have happened to make Jingyu act like this. Jingyu was really not getting married. She returned to the Prime Minister's residence and ordered people to carry out the betrothal gifts. Then, she chased away everyone who was not from the Prime Minister's residence. In Xiao, you should leave. These were Jingyu's last words. Then, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the red silk lanterns hanging in front of the Prime Minister's residence were pulled down and thrown to one side. The doors of the Prime Minister's residence were tightly shut, blocking out all sounds from outside. Jing Zhan and Jing Lang couldn't help but look at Jingyu anxiously. Xiaochen slept with someone else. I don't want dirty things. Jingyu turned her head and took off her wedding dress. She threw it on the ground and said, This is dirty. Burn it. After that, Jingyu shut herself in her room and didn't come out. The entire Prime Minister's residence fell into a strange silence. The red silk was all taken off. No one in the Prime Minister's residence dared to say a word. However, the people outside the residence were in an uproar. The scene that happened today instantly spread throughout the streets and alleys. This was the news that Xiaochen heard when he returned. Xiaochen's face was pale. He grabbed Qingji's collar and asked loudly, What did you say? Ninth sister-in-law? She's not marrying anymore. The betrothal gifts have been returned. Qinggu said with a bitter face. Xiaochen's face suddenly turned ugly. He forcefully flung Qinggu to one side and strode outside. He said, I'll go ask. Master, your injury. Xing Yi was shocked and hurriedly said. Xiaochen's cold gaze swept over. Xing Yi shut his mouth and silently followed Xiaochen towards the Prime Minister's residence. The doors of the Prime Minister's residence were tightly shut. When Xiaochen arrived, he saw the red silk and red lanterns all over the ground. His face instantly turned ugly. Go call the door. Xiaochen's voice was incomparably cold. Chapter 466. Xing Yi answered and went to knock on the door. After a while, the door guard opened a crack and poked his head out. He glanced at Xing Yi and then tilted his head to look at Xiaochen. His expression turned cold as he said, Eldest Miss is not marrying. With a bang, he closed the door. Damn it. Xiaochen's expression was completely dark. After taking a deep breath and a long time, he waved his hand and called Xing Yi back into the prince's residence. Qinggu, tell this king everything that happened today without leaving out a single word. Inside the prince's residence, Xiaochen sat on the main seat and looked at the people kneeling below him. He took a deep breath and spoke. Qinggu had a bitter expression as he recounted everything. Xiaochen's expression didn't change at all, as if it was impossible to tell whether his mood was good or bad. Qinggu could only stiffen his neck and continue speaking. He swallowed his saliva and said, Later on, a very handsome man came back with ninth sister in his arms. Then, ninth sister told us to come back and not marry. He even threw the betrothal gifts out of the residence and took away the red silk with the word, happiness, on it. I really don't know what happened. Qinggu felt wronged. He had only gone to pick up the bride. A man? Carrying Jingyu? Xiaochen said through gritted teeth. Your Highness, I know who that man is. One of the guards bowed and said, He is the prince of the northern pastoral region, Helian Theo. Hellion Theo. Xiao Chen suddenly clenched his fists. Hellion Theo, what did you do to Jingyu? Investigate. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and said, this king has guarded the prime minister's residence. Until Jingyu is willing to see this king. The imperial city was in an uproar. First, it was Xiao Chen and Jingyu's wedding that attracted so much attention. Then, on the day of the wedding, Jingyu suddenly broke off the engagement. She even returned the betrothal gifts and closed the doors. No one knew what had happened. But now, it was the most shocking scene. The 9th imperial uncle was actually pestering Jingyu? Outside the prime minister's residence, Xiao Chen had mobilized almost all of his personal guards to surround the prime minister's residence, causing the servants in the residence to complain incessantly. How could they live their lives like this? Looking at the crowd outside, the entrance of the prime minister's residence was about to explode. This scene lasted for 3 whole days. Motherfucker, he actually dared to bring people to surround my prime minister manor. After Jingyu returned to the prime minister's residence, she had a stomach full of anger. Thinking that what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over, she locked herself in her room and didn't come out. Now that she heard a maid come to inform her that the prime minister's residence had been surrounded for 3 days, she immediately became angry. Eldest young miss, what do we do now? Yin Xiao was sent away by Jingyu. Now, the one serving Jingyu was a maid named Muanyu. Have eldest brother mobilize the army and chase them away. Jingyu said coldly with a dark expression. Eldest young master tried, but an edict came an hour later. Even the commander's seal in eldest young master's hands was confiscated. Muanyu said with a worried expression. Jingyu heard this and the corners of her mouth twitched fiercely. She gritted her teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Motherfucker! What is this damned Xiao Chen trying to do? Go and tell Xiao Chen. If he comes to harass me again, then I won't stay in this Tokyo anymore. Jingyu coldly snorted and stood up. Hellion Theo said last time that he wanted to bring me to the northern pastoral to play. It seems like a pretty good choice. Jingyu stroked her chin and her eyes were filled with thoughts. Muanyu was stunned and looked at Jingyu in confusion. Chapter 467. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and say it. Jingyu glared at her. Muanyu hurriedly bowed and quickly left. She muttered in her heart, will it really work? As soon as Jingyu released the news, Xiao Chen, who was in the prince's residence, immediately received the news. When he heard the news from his subordinates that Jingyu actually wanted to go to the northern pastoral with Hellion Theo, his face instantly turned gloomy. He fiercely swept the things on the table to the ground. Hellion Theo, this king will not forgive you. Xiao Chen spat out these words through gritted teeth. Xing Yi, Xing Er, and the others below him trembled violently. Achoo! Hellion Theo rubbed the tip of his itchy nose. Who is speaking ill of me behind my back? Hellion Theo thought as he blinked his eyes in confusion. He looked at the door of the prime minister's residence in front of him and the corners of his mouth hooked up in a faint smile. He looked around and thought to himself, this Xiao Chen really withdrew his troops? Jingyu was truly amazing. She actually managed to persuade Xiao Chen. Hellion Xiao strode towards the door of the prime minister's residence. Just as he was about to knock on the door suddenly opened. A small head stretched out, and with a glance, it met with Hellion Xiao who was standing in front of the prime minister's residence. Immediately, it cried out in fright, and with a bang, it closed the door. Hellion Theo looked at each other in astonishment. After a moment of silence, the door opened again and the person behind the door was revealed. He was dressed in a gray robe, his hair was tied up, and he held a folding fan in his hand. At first glance, he really did look like an elegant young master. However, upon closer inspection. Haha. Little beauty, why are you dressed like this? Hellion Theo looked up and down at Jingyu, who was dressed in men's clothing. He smiled and looked at Jingyu with interest. Xiao Xiao Xiao, why don't you laugh yourself to death? Jingyu's face darkened. She had clearly seen it on TV. A woman dressed as a man would not be recognized at all, okay? Why was she always recognized at a glance? Little beauty, where are you going? Hellion Theo didn't seem to care about Jingyu's words. He playfully reached out to pinch Jingyu's cheek, but Jingyu quickly waved her fan away and glared at Hellion Theo in disgust. I'm going to get sick from staying inside. Let's go out and have some fun. Jingyu mumbled. Previously, the main gate of the Prime Minister's residence had been surrounded by Xiao Chen's men. Now that they had finally left, Jingyu naturally wanted to slip away. Little beauty, if you go out like this, I can guarantee that Xiao Chen will find you in less than a quarter of an hour. Hellion Theo shrugged as he spoke casually. His eyes faintly glanced at the hidden corner of the street beside the Prime Minister's residence. Jingyu suddenly trembled and her body shrank back into the Prime Minister's residence. Xiao Chen, is there something wrong with his head? Jingyu was about to go crazy. She had originally intended to withdraw and give him a chance to marry someone else, but this fellow had actually pestered her. This was simply, if you want to go out, it's not impossible. Hellion Theo looked at Jingyu and giggled. As long as you're willing to get into my carriage, I can guarantee that Xiao Chen will never find you. Jingyu blinked and asked, your carriage is that useful? You must be lying. Why don't you try and find out? Hellion Theo spread his hands. Jingyu furrowed her brows and thought about it for a moment. It seemed that there was no other way. Just as she was about to agree, Hellion Theo suddenly bent down and picked Jingyu up. Jingyu screamed in shock and Hellion Theo whispered something into her ear. Immediately, Jingyu fell silent and allowed Hellion Theo to carry her to the carriage. Chapter 468. The person hiding in a dark corner of the Prime Minister's residence watched in shock as Hellion Theo left with Jingyu in his arms. When he saw the horse carriage leave, he immediately slapped himself hard on the face and quickly rushed to the prince's residence to report the news to Xiao Chen. Jingyu sat in Hellion Theo's horse carriage and carefully lifted a corner of the curtains. When she saw that no one was chasing after them, her eyes immediately lit up with joy. She slowly exhaled and patted Hellion Theo's shoulder in an extremely magnanimous manner. Well done. Hellion Theo looked at Jingyu, who was sprawled out on the carriage frame with black lines on his face. It's been so long, why haven't I seen any changes in you? Hellion Theo said as he held his forehead. Change? Change what? Jingyu raised her head and looked at Hellion Theo with a perplexed expression. Nothing. Hellion Theo tactfully shut his mouth and leaned his head against the wall of the carriage. As the horse carriage moved forward, Jingyu looked at Hellion Theo's appearance that shamed the moon and the flowers. That peerless appearance made her heart filled with jealousy. She carefully crawled towards Hellion Theo. His face must have undergone plastic surgery. Look at that chin, that high nose bridge, and those eyelashes. They must have been glued on. Jingyu held her breath and looked at Hellion Theo, who seemed to be asleep. She carefully leaned over and reached out her hand towards Hellion Theo's eyes. Her heart itched to pull out Hellion Theo's eyelashes. She imagined what Hellion Theo would look like if he didn't have eyelashes. Jingyu laughed with a trembling voice. It was also at this moment that Hellion Xiu, whose eyes were tightly shut, suddenly opened his eyes. Jingyu was frightened to the point of trembling. She widened her eyes in terror and was just about to open her mouth to say something to divert the topic when the carriage she sat in suddenly swayed. Aya! Jingyu instinctively fell forward into Hellion Theo's arms. Hellion Theo grabbed Jingyu's head to prevent her from being hit. The two of them fell onto the soft couch. Jingyu rubbed her head that had hit Hellion Theo's chest and angrily turned her head to reprimand the coachman. However, when she turned her head, the curtains of the carriage were suddenly pulled open. Jingyu? The person who had pulled open the curtains with a gloomy face was none other than Xiao Chen. Jingyu's body stiffened and the surrounding atmosphere froze for a moment. Then, a soft laugh came from behind Jingyu. A pair of large hands unceremoniously wrapped around Jingyu's waist. Jingyu's body trembled and she looked up in shock. Ninth Master Xiao, why are you blocking this young master's horse carriage? Hellion Theo had a contemptuous and cold smile on his face. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiao Chen. His flirtatious expression made Jingyu's face darken. Fuck. It's not good to be beautiful. It's not intimidating at all. Get down. Xiaochen didn't even look at Heli and Theo as he stared at Jingyu. Xiaochen, this is my horse carriage. Even if it's you, Xiaochen, you don't have the ability to take someone away from my horse carriage. Heli and Theo's smile slowly disappeared as he narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiaochen with a warning look. Jingyu, get down. Xiaochen tightened his grip on the curtains, almost tearing them apart. Xiaochen, do you not understand human language? Jingyu took a deep breath and turned around to meet Xiaochen's eyes. She coldly said, I'm not marrying. There's no relationship between us. Don't get in my way. When Jingyu finished speaking, Xiaochen's breathing suddenly tightened. He stared at Jingyu as if he wanted to see through Jingyu. Jingyu tightly clenched her hands. She originally had a confident look, but Xiaochen's stare made her feel weak. Why did Jingyu inexplicably feel guilty? Chapter 469. The surroundings were silent. Finally, Xiaochen moved. He slowly let go of the curtain and stared at Jingyu. Finally, he covered their vision. Jingyu's body stiffened as she listened to the sound of the carriage moving forward. Her tense nerves slowly relaxed and she wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. Too freaking scary. Jingyu wanted to cry but had no tears. It was clearly not her fault, but why did she feel guilty as if she had been caught in the act? Why the hell was this? It must be because Xiaochen's aura was too strong. Jingyu's body trembled and she rudely slapped away Heli and Theo's large hand that was on her waist. Heli and Theo glared at Jingyu with hidden bitterness. He narrowed his eyes and scolded, "Little heartless girl. I didn't beg you to help me." Jingyu rudely rolled her eyes and said, "Your acting is not bad. It's fun, right?" Haha, it's been a long time since I've seen Xiaochen like this. It's really interesting. Heli and Theo laughed loudly. Pervert. Jingyu rolled her eyes and sat to the side. On the wide road, Xiaochen tightly clenched his fists as he watched Heli and Theo's carriage drive away. His face was gloomy. Xing Yi and Xing Er stood beside Xiaochen and looked at each other, not daring to say a word. After Xiaochen returned to the prince's mansion with a gloomy face, he smashed almost everything in the study. What happened? When Qinggu came to find Xiaochen, he saw Xing Yi and Xing Er standing at the door of the study with bitter faces. The sound of things being smashed could be heard from the study. The sound was so loud that it was deafening. Miracle Dr. Qinggu, it's better if you don't go in. Master is busy. Xing Yi's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. How many years had it been since he saw Xiaochen get angry? Ninth sister-in-law made him angry again? Qinggu immediately understood and asked Xing Yi with a grin. Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at each other and nodded silently. Sigh, women. Qinggu shook his head and thought to himself. In the future, he must marry a considerate, gentle, virtuous, and obedient wife. Especially obedient. Look at this, they are about to go through the wedding ceremony, but he actually dumped her just like that. How disobedient. Qinggu kept muttering in his heart. The sound in the room also quieted down. The three of them all looked over. After a moment of silence, they heard Xiaochen's cold voice from inside the room. Someone, clean it up. Interrogation Officer 1 and Interrogation Officer 2 hurriedly straightened up and strode forward to push open the tightly shut door. The moment the door was pushed open, both of them were dumbfounded. The originally clean and tidy study was now a mess. Look at the case. It had been broken into 8 pieces, all right? It had to be said. Master, you are really too violent. Everything was damaged except for one thing that was still intact. It should be the armchair under Xiaochen's butt. Why was it intact? Because Xiaochen was sitting on the armchair with a serious face. Make a new set. Xiaochen said expressionlessly. Xing Yi and Xing Er immediately went crazy. After wasting a few hours, he smashed all of these things. Was it just to buy a new one? Master, our family has a lot of money, but you don't have to torment us like this. Why don't we exchange it all for banknotes and burn it for fun? Xing Yi and Xing Er wanted to cry but had no tears. They ordered the servants to clean up the study. At the same time, They had to painstakingly look for something that their master liked. They couldn't live like this anymore. Chapter 470. Chingu carefully avoided the broken pieces of wood, porcelain, and other things on the ground. Finally, he found a place where he could stand. He took a deep breath and looked around at the mess around him. There wasn't even a place to stand. You still want to sit? Brother Jiu, you can't go on like this. Chingu tried to persuade him. Jingyu is beautiful, a good person, knows a lot of things, has a good family background, and is very good to you. However, the world is vast. How big is the world? It doesn't have to be Miss Jingyu. Xiaochen was silent. He didn't even bother to look at Chingu. As the saying goes, if you can't hang yourself to death on one tree, you have to try hanging yourself on a few more trees. Chingu said seriously, Jingyu taught me before that there are plenty of fish in the sea. There is no need to fall in love with only one flower. Although I still don't understand the meaning behind it, Jingyu is definitely right. Chingu tried to persuade Xiaochen to let go with a serious face. However, he kept mentioning Jingyu as if Jingyu was so great. This made Xiaochen's face darken again. However, I think you won't be able to get Jingyu back if you continue like this. Chingu talked for a long time, but Xiaochen didn't respond. Finally, when Chingu said this, Xiaochen suddenly turned his head and stared at Chingu. He said, "Do you know how to get her back?" "I don't know if she will come back, but it's better than foolishly smashing things like you." Chingu spread his hands. Foolishly, Xiaochen's face darkened. "However, you have to tell me why you suddenly disappeared on the day of the wedding. I remember that Jingyu said that you would personally go to the wedding. It seems that she ran away because you weren't the one to go to the wedding." Chingu finally got to the point. "On the day of the wedding, I wanted to send someone to bring my wet nurse from the palace to attend the wedding. However, she was kidnapped on the way. I had no choice but to rescue her. That's why I was injured. I wanted you to bring her back so that I could explain to Jingyu. However, she didn't give me a chance to explain." Xiaochen suddenly clenched his fists. Jingyu isn't an unreasonable person. Something must have gone wrong. Chingu slowly frowned and said, "How is the investigation going?" "Nothing." Xiaochen frowned and shook his head slowly. "There must be someone behind this." Chingu clapped his hands and said, "As long as you tell Jingyu what you did, she will definitely forgive you. Right now, she doesn't even want to look at me. Why would she listen to me?" Xiaochen pursed his lips and said, "If she doesn't want to see you, then go see her." Chingu clapped his hands and said, "You have to be humble and talk nicely. Pestering her will definitely move Jingyu. I heard that Jingyu said that all girls like flowers, especially roses." Xiaochen's expression suddenly became strange. He stared at Chingu and said, "How did you know?" "Ijuan told me." Chingu blinked and sold Ijuan out with a serious look on his face. In the lotus garden, Chingu and Xiaochen sat opposite each other. The two of them seemed to be teaching something very interesting over and over again. Xiaochen listened carefully, as if he was thirsting for talent. From time to time, he would raise his hand and ask questions. Chingu and Ijuan were both dancing with joy. Chapter 471. You're going to chase after Miss Jingyu like this? Chingu said. That's right. The ugly woman said it. All girls like this. Ijun looked at Xiaochen eagerly. Xiaochen was silent for a moment. His usually expressionless face was filled with uncertainty. He asked worriedly, Is this really okay? Do you still want Miss Jingyu to come back? Do you still want the ugly woman to come back? Chingu and Ijun said in unison. Xiaochen's breathing stopped. He stood up abruptly and said, I'll go prepare immediately. Xing Yi and Xing Er were standing in the distance. They were completely confused. When they saw Xiaochen leave in a hurry, they suddenly felt a headache coming on. What was going on? For the next few days, Jingyu went in and out of the Prime Minister's residence without a hitch. Jingyu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Could it be that her words last time made Xiaochen finally let go? With this thought, Jingyu suddenly had a strange feeling in her heart. On one hand, she finally felt relieved. On the other hand, she felt stifled in her heart. Big brother, Linglan is back today. I'll go to the restaurant to welcome her back, Jing Yu said to Jing Lang and then went out by herself. After Jing Yu's coming-of-age ceremony, Shangguan Linglan said that she had followed her father and brother to the army and would only be back in a month. It had been more than a month since they heard the news of her return. Today, Shangguan Linglan called Lu Miaoqiu to the rich restaurant for a gathering. When Jing Yu arrived at the restaurant, Shin Yuqing went up to inform her that Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu had already arrived at the restaurant and were waiting in the private room. Jing Yu nodded and ran upstairs excitedly. She hadn't seen Shangguan Linglan for more than a month. At a glance, she saw that Shangguan Linglan had become so tanned. Jing Yu. Shangguan Linglan saw Jing Yu and quickly stood up to welcome her. Yeah. Lu Miaoqiu also walked towards Jing Yu with a surprised expression. Jing Yu looked at the two of them and went up to them with a smile. Shangguan Linglan had always been someone who couldn't hide things. He started to ask about the 9 emperors' wedding. His eyes were filled with anxiety as he stared at Jing Yu. The concern in his eyes made Jing Yu's heart feel warm. You don't have to worry. I was the one who broke off the engagement. I don't feel wronged. Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu and said, there are so many good men in the world. Why do I have to choose Shao Chen? Yeah. Jing Yu said indifferently. However, the more Jing Yu acted like this, the more Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu felt that Jing Yu felt wronged, but she pretended to be fine. It's all my fault. If I didn't go to the army with my father. Shangguan Linglan held her breath and felt very uncomfortable. If it weren't for the mountain flood on the way back to the capital, the journey wouldn't have been delayed and she wouldn't have missed Jing Yu's wedding. If she was there, she would definitely know what happened. Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't help you with anything. Lu Miaoqiu's eyes were full of self-blame. In order to attend Jing Yu's wedding, she had gone against her father for the first time. However, the result was that she was locked up in her room by her aunt. She only managed to escape after pretending to be sick for 5 whole days. If it weren't for that, she probably wouldn't have known that such a thing had happened to Jing Yu. Thinking of this, Lu Miaoqiu's heart was filled with bitterness. Shangguan Linglan and Jing Yu had helped her in everything, but she had always thought of retreating when she encountered problems. New Year's Eve in a small theater, Shao Chen said, Huh? New Year's Eve? What New Year's Eve? You can just spend it in bed. Jing Yu was speechless. As it turned out, New Year's Eve should be spent in bed. The union of soul and body was the correct way to express New Year's Eve. Chapter 472. Taking a step back could lead to a vast expanse of space, but that didn't mean taking a step back would lead to a bottomless abyss. She originally thought that there was nothing in this world that she would miss, but now it seemed that there were too many things that were worth remembering. You two idiots, I'm really fine. Jing Yu took a deep breath and held Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu's hands as she said, although I'm really sad. I don't want to be sad. You don't have to be like this. We're just going back to the old days. I still want to visit the Roman forest after a while. I haven't been back for a long time, and I miss it. Really? We'll go with you. Shangguan Linglan's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said happily. But Jing Yu replied with a smile. All right, I plan to move into the house. You two can move in together. Jing Yu said with a smile as she looked at Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu. It's the house that's circled by Mingbian Lake, right? Shangguan Linglan's eyes lit up as he stared at Jing Yu and said, I heard you say that you were going to build that house a long time ago. Now it's finally done? Why didn't you leak any news about it? I'm planning to give you a surprise. Jing Yu raised her chin and said proudly. I heard that many strange things have been moved into that house. I'm really looking forward to it. Lu Miaoqiu's eyes were also filled with surprise. I personally designed it. I guarantee that you'll be shocked when you see it. Jing Yu raised her chin proudly and said, You two can go back and pack up your things and move in with me later. I definitely won't disappoint you. But Shangguan Linglan replied happily. But Lu Miaoqiu replied with a smile. She thought of her father's words, and her mouth was full of bitterness. Even if she had to be scolded or punished, she had to do it. The three of them gathered together to eat snacks and joke around. Just as they were having fun, they suddenly heard a commotion below them. Jingyu and the others curiously opened the window of the private room and looked out. The street was filled with people, and there was a large empty space below Jingyu's window. A figure dressed in black was pulling a cart of roses and carefully arranged them into a heart shape. In the center of the heart shape was a word of white roses. Jingyu, what's that symbol? I don't understand it. Shengguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu were leaning against the window and looking at the huge heart below. Their faces were filled with doubt. Isn't that the 9 emperors? The huge heart shape was finally arranged. The man dressed in black slowly stood up and stood beside the heart shape. He raised his head and looked at Jingyu's window. His handsome features made Jingyu spit out a mouthful of tea. Fuck! Jingyu opened her eyes wide and looked at Xiao Chen's gentle expression. She suddenly felt her legs and stomach tremble. The words, Jingyu I love you, were written in the huge heart shape. It was no wonder that Shangguan Linglan only recognized Jingyu and didn't recognize the words behind it. Xiao Chen's brain. It must have been crushed by the door. Right. Jingyu was completely crazy. She looked at the bouquet of roses in Xing Yi's hands. There was a strange expression on her face, but she suppressed it. She raised her head and looked at Jingyu, as if she was about to speak. Chapter 473. Shut up. Jingyu had goosebumps all over her body. Before Xiao Chen could say anything, she shouted at Xiao Chen in horror. If you dare to say a single word, I won't see you for the rest of my life. As soon as Jingyu shouted this sentence, Xiao Chen immediately shut his mouth. He frowned and looked at Jingyu. His eyes flashed with joy. This trick was indeed useful. I'll go down first. Jingyu quickly stood up and ran down the stairs in a flurry. Even if she used her toes to think, she knew which idiot gave Xiao Chen this rotten idea. It must be either Yijuan or Qin Ge, those 2 idiots. Damn it. It was all his fault for being so talkative. He had nothing better to do, so he told them all the tricks that people used to woo girls in the modern world. He even said it in English and told them that it was another kind of sacred language. Originally, he wanted to wait for the 2 boys to use this trick when they woo girls. She would definitely laugh hysterically at the side. But now, damn it. Why would this pig Xiao Chen do such a thing? The way he dressed in ancient clothes was simply, Jingyu rushed down the stairs at the speed of light. She stood beside Xiao Chen and snatched the rose from Xiao Chen's hand in disgust. She threw it aside and said to Xing Yi and Xing Er, hurry up and get rid of this pile of junk. Everyone, disperse. You fucking come over here. Jingyu gritted her teeth and glared at Xiao Chen. Her face was so red that it was almost dripping blood. Looking at the people outside pointing and whispering, Jingyu wanted to find a hole to bury herself in. Xiao Chen smiled happily and followed Jingyu into the restaurant unhurriedly. Jingyu found an empty private room and pushed Xiao Chen in without hesitation. Once the door was closed, she immediately started scolding, Xiao Chen, are you a pig? Why did you do this? You even wrote my name. But you're the 9th emperors. Shouldn't you be high and mighty? What are you doing now? Is your brain cramping? I'm going to die from anger. Jingyu stomped her feet and scolded. You don't like it? Xiao Chen stared at Jingyu and asked seriously. Like your sister. Fuck. Jingyu scolded angrily. I don't have a sister. It's enough that you like me. Xiao Chen said seriously again. Jingyu held her breath and didn't know what to say. She just stared at Xiao Chen with bulging eyes. Jingyu? Xiao Chen opened his mouth and wanted to talk about what happened on the day of the wedding. However, Jingyu shouted and interrupted him. You shut up. Immediately. Go back to your palace. If you dare to do such stupid things again, I will immediately leave Tokyo. I'm telling you clearly. I don't like it. Do you understand? Jingyu didn't care about anything else and turned to leave. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu angrily leaving and frowned. That damned Xinggu. Master? Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at Xiao Chen, who was standing alone in the private room, and called out in confusion. Go back to the palace. Xiao Chen said indifferently and strode out. Although he didn't get the effect he wanted, at least Jingyu was willing to talk to him. Moreover, she didn't just say one sentence, but many sentences. Moreover, she said something very nice. Xiao Chen's lips curled into a smile as he thought about it. She likes me. It was very obvious that our Lord Jiu had magnificently ignored the words sister who likes your sister, and went to entertain himself. Chapter 474. Jingyu returned to the private room with a dark expression. Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu looked at Jingyu curiously and asked softly, What happened just now? What were you talking about with the 9th emperors? It's nothing. Jingyu replied through gritted teeth. What was the 9th emperors doing just now? What was he putting there? Shangguan Linglan asked curiously. Jingyu was stunned when she heard this. Only then did she remember that they didn't understand English. She originally thought that they would be mocked, but she didn't expect that they didn't understand. Jingyu slowly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, Xiao Chen wasn't stupid and used English. Luckily, she taught him English. She was really lucky. If he had used words, Jingyu's name would have become famous all over the mainland in less than 2 hours. Tears streamed down her face. Jingyu heaved a sigh of relief. Now that she thought of Yijuan and Qinggu, she suddenly had the urge to tear them apart. Xiao Chen calmly returned to the prince's mansion and calmly taught Qinggu and Yijuan a lesson. Then, he walked briskly out of the lotus garden. Xing Yi and Xing Er silently glanced at the lotus garden before turning to leave. 9th brother. I know I was wrong. Qinggu was hanging upside down from a beam in the lotus garden with a bloody nose and swollen face. Beside him, Yijuan was also hanging upside down. However, his adorable face wasn't hurt at all. Why was this? Jingyu liked Yijuan's face. Qinggu was on the verge of tears. 2 figures, one big and one small, were hanging upside down on the beam, drifting with the wind. After Jingyu returned to the Prime Minister's manor, she discussed with Jingyu and Jingzhan, and then hurriedly moved into her new home. However, just as she was about to move into her new home, she didn't know that her whereabouts had been exposed. What did you say? In the Wangfu, Xiao Chen's study room had been renovated. At this moment, it no longer looked as messy as before. One could not help but admire Xiao Chen's subordinates. This speed was simply amazing. The imperial concubine has moved to a new residence by Lake Ming and invited the 2 young ladies of the Shangguan family and the Lu family to move in together. As soon as Xing Yi finished speaking, the brush in Xiao Chen's hand suddenly broke. Xing Yi's body shook violently. My dear master. This was a brush he had just bought. Do you know what to do? Xiao Chen calmly changed the brush and narrowed his eyes at Xing Yi as he asked. Yes, this subordinate understands. Xing Yi bowed in response. Jingyu excitedly came to the residence by Lake Ming. In order to not be disturbed, she only brought Nuanyu to serve her. Everything in the residence had been arranged, so she could move in directly. The jewelry and clothes were all bought by Xiao Chen on a whim. Jingyu looked at the style of the building and was immediately filled with affection. Being able to live in such a house in a different world was simply a great blessing. Jingyu happily tidied up the house and waited for the arrival of Shangguan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu. However, after waiting for a long time, 2 servants came. They actually said that the 2 of them had something to do at home and wouldn't be coming. Jingyu had to take good care of herself, and then they were done. Scammers who cheat their teammates. Jingyu was speechless and scolded, but there was nothing she could do. Looking at the large residence, she wondered if she should bring more people in. Wouldn't it be gloomy at night? Nuanyu was obviously very curious about the villa. After getting Jingyu's permission, she immediately wandered around with a smile. Jingyu changed into a set of light clothes and stretched lazily. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the gradually setting sun. The light shining on the bamboo leaves was very beautiful. Chapter 475. Fishes. I'm here to feed you. Jingyu smiled as she fed the fishes. She looked at the lively fishes and suddenly thought of something and rushed into the house. When she was building the house and doing some woodwork, Jingyu had made a very high-end fishing rod out of boredom. Why was it high-end? Because Jingyu's fishing rod could be extended and retracted. Jingyu rummaged through the cabinets to look for the fishing rod. Last time, she had casually stuffed it into some cabinet. Just as she was about to raise her voice to call for Yin Xiao, she suddenly stopped. She had sent Yin Xiao away. How vexing. Why did she send Yin Xiao away? Now she thought of Yin Xiao. Jingyu rummaged through the cabinets and pulled out a piece of clothing. A wooden box fell to the ground with a clang. Jingyu picked it up in confusion. When she picked it up, she saw the words Yijuan written on it. Jingyu slapped her forehead speechlessly. I forgot to give Yijuan a present. Jingyu opened the box. This was something that Jingyu had made on a whim when she was solving the chess game last time. It was completely made of wood. Jingyu had asked Xing Er to find this wood. She had put in a lot of effort to make it. In the wooden box in Jingyu's hand, there was a square object lying quietly. It was a 6-sided 3-dimensional square. Jingyu had dyed it with colored squares. It was obviously a Rubik's Cube made of wood. Initially, Jingyu wanted to give it to Yijuan after the chess game was over, but she forgot about it after the delay. The thing was also stuffed in the wardrobe. If she didn't look for it today, it would probably be hidden there. Looks like I have to find a time to give this to Yijuan. Jingyu casually rotated the Rubik's Cube and placed it back into the wooden box. In order not to be forgotten again, she placed it on the table and continued to search for her fishing rod. After searching for a long time, she finally found it in the corner. Oh my! Yin Xiao, this little girl is really good at hiding things. Jingyu silently wiped the sweat off her forehead and excitedly went fishing with her fishing rod. What? You're asking me what to use as bait? Isn't this simple? Just find a tree and dig up a few earthworms. Miss, what are you doing? When Nuanyu came over with the stuff, she saw Jingyu putting earthworms into the bamboo jar. The soft thing made Nuanyu's expression change drastically. She stared at Jingyu in horror and screamed. What are you yelling for? Haven't you seen earthworms before? Jingyu stared at her. That thing? Miss, come back quickly. Don't move. Nuanyu seemed like she wanted to pull Jingyu away, but she was too scared to go forward. Little girls these days. Not only are they scared of snakes, they're even scared of earthworms. Jingyu ignored Nuanyu and sat on the pavilion fishing with her fishing rod. Under the setting sun, fishing like this really had a different flavor. Nuanyu called out to Jingyu a few times, but she didn't respond. She could only give up helplessly and go prepare dinner. Have you experienced the feeling of smoke rising from the villa? Originally, Jingyu hadn't experienced it, but now she felt it. Nuanyu, you burned down the house. Jingyu was about to break down. Nuanyu blinked her eyes in confusion, her beautiful little face full of dirt and ashes. She looked at Jingyu with an aggrieved expression and said, Miss, this servant is a first-class servant and has never done anything in the kitchen. Chapter 476. Oh my God! Jingyu hastily extinguished the fire and spent a lot of effort to tidy up the kitchen. The sky outside was completely dark, but the night pearls in the villa lit up one after another, illuminating the interior of the villa as if it was daytime. Jingyu was so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. In the end, the two of them took the banknotes and went out for a good meal. Only then did they return with their round bellies. Looking at the villa, Jingyu sighed helplessly. She inexplicably felt that she should either live in the forest or be served by others. Otherwise, she really wouldn't be able to survive. It was already late at night. Jingyu lay by the window of the bedroom on the second floor, looking at the Tokyo night scenery with a tranquil heart. The night pearls below were all covered by warm jade, leaving only a few illuminating lights. Jingyu looked at Nuanyu's hurried footsteps and smiled. This girl is actually so scared? Could it be that there are ghosts in this villa? Jingyu? Jingyu had just thought of this when a soft call came from behind her. Ah! Jingyu trembled and swayed unsteadily. She was about to fall down the stairs when a pair of large hands suddenly grabbed Jingyu's waist and hugged Jingyu. Jingyu was so frightened that her heart was beating rapidly. Her hands tightly grasped onto his clothes. "Why are you here?" Jingyu's body stiffened when a familiar scent entered her nose. Under the light of the night pearls, Xiao Chen's handsome features were revealed. A pair of large hands held Jingyu firmly in his embrace and his pitch-black eyes stared straight at Jingyu. "This is also my villa," Xiao Chen calmly replied. "You're bullshitting." Jingyu scrambled down and pushed Xiao Chen away. She glared at Xiao Chen and said, "This house is mine. My name is also written on the title deed. It has nothing to do with you. Get out of here right now." Xiao Chen fell silent. "Get out." Jingyu glared at him. Xiao Chen continued to remain silent. "Oh my God! Don't you understand human language?" Jingyu angrily stepped forward and pulled Xiao Chen's hand to go downstairs. The noise upstairs made Nuanyu a little worried. She was about to go upstairs to take a look, but she didn't expect to see her miss coming down with a man. Nuanyu was immediately frightened. However, when she saw that the person Jingyu was pulling was the 9th Emperor's, she was immediately dumbfounded. "When did the 9th Emperor's come to the mansion? Let me tell you, this villa is mine now. It has nothing to do with you." Jingyu angrily pulled Xiao Chen out of the front of the villa and threw Xiao Chen out of the house. She glared at Xiao Chen and said, "Without my permission, you can't take a single step into this house." Kwangdang. The door of the villa was unceremoniously locked by Jingyu. Xiao Chen stood outside with a dark face. To think that he, the 9th Emperor's, would one day be kicked out of the house by a woman? This was simply a great humiliation. However, when he thought about how Jingyu pulled his hand and the familiar warmth of her soft palm, Xiao Chen would be quite happy to do it again. Xiao Chen's lips curled into a faint smile. He gently clenched his hand and looked at the tightly shut door of the villa. There was only one thought in his mind. When he was enclosing the land, he should have made the land bigger and expanded the villa. Otherwise, Jingyu would have had to walk a long way to get him out. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.